East Hampton Planning Board, you're live on the air and you're being recorded.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the Planning Board of the Town of East Hampton's meeting of November 17th, 2021. Thank you to LTV for your work in getting us on the air again. Thank you also to Planning Board staff, Planning Department staff. We have a very busy agenda today. We have 4 matters on for work session. We have the Wainscott Commercial Center, the continuing review of the revised draft environmental impact statement. I'll talk more about that in a moment. We have 2 matters on for sub-waiver review. We have 1 matter on for site plan review. We also have 2 matters on for public hearing, and we have a couple of resolutions that need to be adopted. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to address first the sub-waiver reviews and the site plan reviews in work session. And if we have time before 7 p.m., then we will deal with the matters of the resolutions in the regular meeting. Then, after that, we will go into public hearings. We have 2 matters on for public hearings. One is the Nick Cohen Art Studio, and the other is the Southampton Hospital Freestanding Emergency Room. And those are both scheduled for 7 p.m. After those public hearings, and when we get to 7 p.m., I'll talk more about the process for that. After that, then we will come back to the Wainscott Commercial Center preliminary review. The subdivision review, pardon me. That subdivision, the review of the Wainscott Commercial Center subdivision, tonight we will focus on the traffic issues. Previously, we've focused on the layout issues, and we focused on the groundwater issues, and then tonight we'll discuss traffic issues. At the conclusion of that discussion, it is my expectation, my anticipation, that we will then have a resolution presented, and we will take a break, and the board will review the resolution, and then we'll have a discussion and vote on the resolution. So with all that, I would like to now ask that we turn to the first matter on for sub-waiver review, the Cohen-Tepper lot line modification. Sharon, you're the board member with responsibility for that. Marco is the planning department point person on that, and I apologize for not knowing off the top of my head. Thomas, who is the applicant representative on that one?
I believe it's Susan Brierly.
And I see Ms. Brierly on my screen. Hello, Ms. Brierly. Okay, so let's first start with Cohen-Tepper lot line modification.
Okay. I put the share screen on. So this was an application that was approved in June 12, 2020. This was an application to approve, to revise the lot lines of 2 urban renewal parcels that are B resident zoning in Amagansett. As part of the applicant's conditions of approval, the applicant is to submit a survey that is stamped and approved by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. The applicant has submitted a survey approved by Suffolk County Department of Health Services, but some of the features were removed from the map. Most notably is a clearing line, which was required on the approved map. What you see is the map that was submitted, and this is the map that was part of the approved plans. So that was noted to be missing, which is illustrating the areas within the scenic easement that had been previously cleared and proposed to be revegetated. Very simple. In conclusion, the planning department recommends that the final lot line modification map illustrate the clearing line and results in areas to be revegetated. The board should determine whether or not it agrees. Regardless of the board's decision, a modification will ultimately be required, so the date of the most recent revisions is noted in the approval and matches the most recent revision dates on the physical map. As you can see, this is approved June 10, 2020, and the survey here is, if I zoom in, is of a later date. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Briley, do you have anything you wish to add regarding this
Yes, I do.
application? Please go ahead.
So we submitted the map for planning board signature, and at that time, Ms. Walker advised us we needed to process the modification because the dates were not consistent with your resolution. So that's what led us to make this application. The reason the map has been altered is simply because the county recording office requires we remove miscellaneous lines for clarity purposes. That's why it got removed. To have to put that line back on would take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to get the county to restamp it and then bring it back to you. I don't necessarily object to it. It's just I'm not sure it achieves the purpose of what this board is actually looking for. You're most likely looking to see that area gets restored and planted. So if you're willing to agree to a compromise, I think your resolution could actually require the restoration of the planting and an inspection by the planning department prior to signing of the map. That might be more beneficial.
I just want to chime in. This is Eric Chance, the assistant director. We have no objection to that as a solution.
And we wouldn't be running afoul of any laws or any code requirements, Eric?
No, as long, I looked through the resolution, I have it in front of me, the original one. There wasn't reference to revegetation too specifically. It was shown on the map. That's why we recommended that it be added back to the map. But as long, we could just revise the, have a modification resolution that says revegetation shall be performed in accordance with map dated, so-and-so, which was the approved map, and then correct the final map to be the one that was submitted with the health department signature. That was really the impetus for requiring the modification, was that now the revision date on the map, that's the most recent map, doesn't match what the board approved. So at the very least, there should be a modification for that purpose. But I think as long as there's a condition of approval that the revegetation be performed, and as Susan recommended, we inspect it. Fact of the matter is it's mostly within a scenic easement. It needs to be revegetated anyway. But I think that's a fine resolution and probably the most expedient and simplest way to handle the situation.
And as a matter of just, go ahead, Ken.
Does that mean that when the property changes hands, there won't be any confusion about what's on the survey, where the easement is meant to be? Because I think let me finish, please.
Yeah, sure.
And one of the things that we've been trying to do is make, our bookkeeping on this stuff consistent so that the resolutions and the maps read the same way. And I recognize that the applicant is, dealing with issues at the county, but I just want to make sure that this is a lasting record. That's correct. That there isn't a map that says one thing and a resolution that says something else.
We would write up the resolution so that they could not get the final approval and the signature of the chair for their lot line modification until that revegetation is performed and inspected.
So is the answer to my question, will this hold with when it changes hands? Is that yes? Is that the answer to my question?
Well, they can't change hands of the property in the configuration that they're proposing through this application.
I understand, but once, my question is, if we accept this compromise, will that stick with the property? Will this not be a complicating issue going forward?
Is it as good as running with the land?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically the map won't be the map has the revegetation illustrated on it, and the chair wouldn't sign it, unless it indicated that action was going to be performed. We're saying that, okay, you don't need the illustration, but we need a modification resolution. We're going to write in that the revegetation needs to be done before the chair signs the map. So it's, instead of illustrating it on a map, you're writing it as a condition of approval. The timing stays
I
the same.
recognize that that's what's happening. This still isn't answering my question. Will this run with the land? Will there be a complicated, I mean, this is all fine for this owner and this applicant's representative, but 10 years from now, is this going to be clear for the next buyer?
No, the easement,
Okay.
it's a standard scenic easement that says that you cannot clear in it, you cannot put structures in it. You know, right now that's a violation. But no, they wouldn't be allowed to maintain clearing within a scenic easement. The scenic easement prohibits that, and it will in perpetuity.
So that's the protection.
So
Yeah,
in
of
fact,
course.
yes, it will. The answer
Yes.
is no.
Yes.
The answer is yes. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
It's just coming about a different way. Sharon, this is yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, Eric chimed in exactly. I was going to defer to him and ask him that same question that he sort of cleared up for us. So if the planning department is okay with you know, doing it in the way Susan Brierly has proposed, then I'm okay with it.
Anyone else on this?
So am I correct that there's already a scenic easement over this area? And
Yes.
that this was clearing within the easement? So that easement runs with the land.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it already does. It was correcting technically a violation of that document that runs with the land and prohibits any clearing. So,
Great. That was all I wanted to know.
sorry
If any board members have any other questions on this, because I want to make sure that I have something right with Eric. So the question, anybody? No. Oh, nobody? Okay. So the question is, should the clearing line and areas be revegetated, be placed back on the final lot line modification map? That's not the question any longer, correct?
No.
Eric? You muted.
yes,
Eric.
that's correct. The alternative would be having a condition of modification approval requiring the revegetation.
Okay, so is the board all clear on that? And do
Yes.
we all agree with it?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Fine.
yes, all around, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Very well, Ms. Brearley. You have your answer and you have the compromise, if you will. Okay,
Excellent. Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, the next matter on is the Damadeo Coscostidis. And again, I apologize as always if I mispronounce the name there. Sub-waiver review. Will, you've got that on behalf of the planning department. Ed, you're the point person for the board. And Thomas, who's the applicant's representative on this?
It's still us. Shannon McCaffrey's
Oh,
joining me.
it's still you? Okay, well,
Still us.
welcome back. Okay, very well. Okay, Will, please go ahead and lead us on this one.
Great. I'm going to share the screen here. Just have it. Okay. So this was an application we looked last at in May to divide the original parcel into 3 separate lots. There'll be a proposed scenic easement in lot 1, and when the application was previously brought before the planning board, it was determined that in order for the application to move forward, the applicant would need to revise the survey map in order to address concerns regarding the lot lines, particularly the lines around the common driveway easement were confusing and undefined, and more specific clearing calculations regarding proposed revegetated areas. The survey that they've submitted, as you can see here, has addressed this. Less defined lines are now utilized to illustrate the common driveway easement, as you can see here. And the clearing calculations have been updated to account for the area of lot 1 that will need to be revegetated. The applicant has also submitted a revegetation plan to account for the revegetated area, which is the existing asphalt driveway that will be removed in favor of the new common driveway easement. At the previous planning board meeting, the applicant was directed to revise the survey in order to meet the fire marshal's existing concerns regarding Chapter 220 of the Town Code, which state that all common driveways will be constructed with an emergency vehicle turnaround at the end of the driveway, and that ones greater than 500 feet in length must be constructed with a minimum of 1 interim emergency vehicle turnoff area. Additionally, the fire marshal submitted new comments dated October 25th, where he reiterated the same points and also noted the required length and widths of the common driveway as outlined in Chapter 220. The applicant's original intentions were for the common driveway to cover only lots 1 and 2 of the site, with lot 3 having a flag access strip that would follow the remainder of the property. The fire marshal still posits that the applicant should have to include said flag access strip, which is this kind of end strip you see here, that's counted as part of lot 3, as part of the overall common driveway for emergency access purposes. However, the planning department did not find that there was anything stated in the town code that would suggest that one could not have a flag access strip for a separate lot that splits off from the common driveway. So we would recommend that the planning board basically decide whether the applicant will be permitted to move forward or what they will be required to revise it to address the fire marshal's comments. Other than that, the application is largely complete. The applicant dealt with the prior concerns regarding the lot lines and clearing calculations and submitted a revegetation plan. So it's basically just down to the fire marshal's comments as to whether this applicant needs more revisions or not.
Okay. Thank you very much for that cogent analysis of this. Does the applicant have something that the applicant wishes to add?
Well, I think that we would appreciate first, I guess, hearing the board's comments and thoughts on the matter.
Okay. In that case, Ed? Ed, you there?
Yes, just had to unmute. So I do remember this from back in May, the issues that had to be resolved, and thank you for resolving the ones that were easily resolvable. So this is a tricky one. I think I did have a chance to chat with Will about this earlier today and, give some thought to the situation. And it seems to me that in the absence of real clarity in the code about this idea of having sort of substituting the flag strip in a way for the tail end of the common driveway. And I realize this is going to require some additional width to the driveway and all of that. But I tend to think that if we don't have clarity from the code, we do from the fire marshal in this case. So I would tend to kind of go with his recommendations on how to look at this. So I'm interested to see what other board members think about that.
Well, do any other board members have anything they wish to add to this analysis?
If I may ask Ed, in your meeting with William, did you discuss where we might put the pull-off? I'm just looking at the map, and it seems like the distance between the highway and the turnaround isn't really that lengthy. I believe we can fit the pull-off in there. If we can fit it, I have no objection to adding it. It's just an extra safety measure, and I'm all for fire protection. That's not a problem. But I'm just not sure where. I look at it and I'm like, okay, but it's like we'll be so close to the turnaround. What did you gentlemen come up with when you were discussing it?
Yeah, we didn't come to any specific conclusion. I think Will was going to give this some additional thought, but we were kind of thinking about somewhere around the border between lots 1 and lot 2.
Are you suggesting we move the turnaround into lots 2 and 3 and create a longer driveway? Is that?
Yeah. Yes. We'll eliminate. Yeah. I think, isn't that the point? Isn't that what's in front of us?
I didn't get that from the fire marshal.
Are you saying 1 and 2 or 2 and 3? I'm a little confused on that. The turnaround.
Well, the turnaround right now is between 1 and 2. And then at the end of the turnaround, we have a short flag strip that goes to lot 3. What that did was it made our driveway not quite long enough to require the pull-off, the 50-foot long pull-off. So that assisted us in creating this layout and maintaining the required lot areas. Yeah. When we add more area to the easement, our lot areas are compromised. So that's part of the reason why we came up with this design that everybody seems to have agreed on. So when we get to the end of that turnaround, we then turn into a flag strip, which is it's acceptable by the town code. I can put a turn off. It's really just a pull off so that 2 cars can pass basically, or a fire can pass or pull off and not be in the way of another emergency vehicle. I can put that in just when it ends the 25-foot wide width.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, my feeling about this, and I'll let Will comment on this as well, or anyone else from the planning department for that matter. But my feeling is it's a long common driveway, you know, and that's really what it is all the way back to lot 3, you know, even though it's sort of on this map kind of noted as a flag strip associated with lot 3, which allows it to not have to comply to the requirements for a long.
Oh, Ed, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Out of control. Yeah, I was just simply saying that, you know, by kind of calling this a flag strip to lot 3, it does. I understand kind of your reasoning here, but I think the fire marshal is saying, hey, to get an emergency vehicle back to lot 3, you're going down a much longer driveway. Whether that last piece of it is a flag strip off of lot 3 or whether it's not, it's still that distance, right? I think that was sort of the argument that he was making about this. So that's sort of my feeling, you know, in terms of the precise location of turnarounds and so on, you know, I'll leave that for the planning department to comment on, but I'm just feeling as though we need to really take the fire marshal's comments into account here. Now, given that there's some softness in what the code says about it, I would lean in that direction, but other board members and planning department members may have a different view.
Ed, did you and the fire marshal talk about where the best location for the turnaround might be?
No, I didn't talk to the fire marshal. I just read his comments and talked to Will about his conversation.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments about this?
I do, Sam.
Please, Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Ed here, and I just want to say that I do think there is justification in the code, and that we're supposed to make lots that are generally rectangular in shape and regular. This is clearly a mechanism, sort of a workaround to get, you know, a shorter driveway when in fact it's the same length driveway. So I think we do have justification in the code, and I agree that the fire marshal's comments are important, but they don't, you know, have to stand alone outside of the code. I think that we have justification both ways, and I think that the standard place to put that turnaround would be between lots 2 and 3. In any normal type of subdivision. So that's what I would favor.
Anyone else? I would agree with Ed and Ian on this. You know, it is a fire marshal issue. I mean, even if the code is vague on it, I think that the fire marshal's comments really do need to govern what we're doing here. And if a reading of the code allows for that as well, which it may seem to, so much better. So questions, we have 2 questions. The first is, does the planning board concur that the issues regarding the nature of the lot lines on the survey have been clarified, and that all issues regarding clearing calculations and revegetation of existing asphalt driveway space have been resolved? And can I hear any?
Yes.
Does anyone
Yes.
disagree? No one disagrees with that, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Second question: should the planning board allow the application to be approved as is, with flag access strip being used for lot 3 as separate from the common driveway, or should they follow the fire marshal's comments that the last stretch of the flag access strip has to be incorporated as part of the common driveway for the 3 lots, complete with required dimensional regulations, despite it not being clearly stated in the town code? And again, that's assuming that's accurate, that they can't utilize a flag access strip for lot 3.
I think don't we also want to include Ian's saying that, you know, that the turnaround be between 2 and 3?
Well, I'm sorry. Well, that's a good point, Randy. Does anyone disagree with that? That the turnaround be between lots 2 and 3?
No.
No one? Okay, with that add-in amendment, do we all agree?
Agree.
Yes.
Yes.
Very well. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Burley, anything you want to add? Any comments?
That's all good. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Yes, you too. Thank you. Okay, the last matter that we have on, it's 6:56. Let's try and get this in. And then, assuming we have the time, I do want to take care of the two regular meeting items before we move into the public hearings. So let's cover the Tuchilo site plan special permit modification application. This is Marco. You've got this, and Lou, you're the planning board's point person. Who's the applicant on this one? Is the applicant with us?
Yeah, hi, I'm here, Madeline Van John.
Oh, okay. Hi, Ms. Van John.
Hi.
Okay. All right, Marco, please.
Sure. This is a plan that was approved in March 28, 2019. This was a modification application to alter the site plan approval to expand a pre-existing non-conforming single-family residence by moving it 7 feet further landward than what was originally approved.
All participants are muted.
Sorry about that. Go right ahead, everybody.
Okay. So it was originally approved at 31.2 feet. Sorry, it's going to be moved to 31.2 feet away instead of the 24.2 feet from the bluff coast. So the applicant submitted a revised sanitary plan and copies of the DEC approval. So as I mentioned, the DEC approval, because the approval for the DEC was different than what was originally approved, the applicant has needed the modification from the planning board and from the zoning board of appeals in order to ensure all the plans are matching together. Should be noted that the proposed site plan approved by the DEC illustrating the setback modification has not been signed or stamped by a licensed surveyor. So the applicant should provide a site plan that satisfies those conditions. There is a revised sanitary plan, but there are just minor relocations of one of leaching galleys and future expansion leaching galley. All of it will need approval from Suffolk County Department of Health Services. So in conclusion, modifications incomplete pending the submission of a formal site plan stamped and signed by a licensed surveyor. The changes to the application are considered minor and would be beneficial for greater separation between the improvements and natural features.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marco, for that. Ms. Van John, do you have something you'd like to add? Anything?
Yeah, just a few quick things. Yeah, as Marco said, basically we got this approved by the planning board and the zoning board a couple of years ago. It's a pre-existing house in a commercial zone, so that's why it's before the planning board. And basically the approvals were just to reconstruct the house further back from the bluff. And through the process in the DEC required us to move it even further back, and that was accomplished by basically rotating a few sanitary components. So pretty much the only change is that it's now further from the bluff crest, which is obviously beneficial for everyone. And yeah, for whatever reason, the DEC approved a site plan and didn't require a survey, but we're happy to get everything put on a survey. We're pending before the zoning board right now as well. So in the meantime, we'll get everything put on the survey.
Okay, thank you very much. Lou, this is yours.
Yeah, this one is an easy one for me. I mean, we already approved this and now it's going to be moved even further back. So it's a slam dunk for me. I'm all for approving it.
Okay. I guess the easiest way to do it is, does anybody disagree with the approval?
No, question is that green speckled area under easement? That's for the applicant. Is that
it says areas to be revegetated with beach grass, Randy.
Right,
Yeah, there's a patio there right now. We're removing it, and that'll be revegetated.
No, but is that area of the dune, is that revegetated area under scenic easement?
No, it's not. There are some easements relating to the downtown bluff restoration there that aren't shown on there, but there's no scenic easement there, no.
So I mean, normally we would try to protect the dune and the replanted beach grass there. The zoning board may do that on their own.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a moment. First off, do we have any opinion regarding the modification of the setback? Folks, anybody?
All
Randy?
good.
We're all good with it? Good? Okay. This one should be easy. Should the applicant submit a formal site plan that is stamped and signed by a licensed surveyor? I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that.
Yes.
Okay. And does the planning board wish to send comments to the zoning board?
I don't
Yeah, we
think it's
might just
necessary.
mention dune, as Randy said.
One at a time. Kathy, go ahead, please.
We might just mention the dune, as Randy said.
That they consider, we ask that they
Yeah.
consider a scenic easement over the revegetation area.
It's a good idea.
Okay. How do we all feel about that? Is there any disagreement with that?
No, that's a good idea.
Well, I also think we should say we support it generally, no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're writing. All right. Nobody disagrees with that either. Okay. Very good. So I guess Marco, you'll put together something for us to send to the ZBA.
Yep.
And Ms. Van John, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, all set. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
All
you.
right. I want to thank the board for dealing with these matters on the work session so expeditiously. And with everybody's patience, I'd just like to take care of the two items that we have in regular meeting, and then we can move on to the public hearings. The first one is the Wayne Scott Womble's approval. Randy, if you'd read the resolution out.
Okay. Let's see. I'm finding it. It's here somewhere. If somebody has it, here I
I
got it.
have it. You want me to read it?
You have it? Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, very well. In the matter of the application of Wayne Scott Womble's 2 LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-197-3-2. I have read the resolution for site plan approval, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed and carried 7-0. Okay, the next one is East Hampton Retail Site Plan. And Shannon, that's yours. You
Yeah.
have it?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so in the matter of the application of East Hampton Retail Site Plan, tax map number 300-189-1-6.1. I did read this resolution and move for its approval.
There a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed and carried 7-0. Okay, thank you all again. All right, now we're moving into the part of the regular meeting dedicated to public hearings. We have 2 public hearings tonight. The first one is the Nick Cohen Artist Studio. Randy, you'll be reading the resolution on that. Well, not the resolution, I'm sorry, the announcement.
Hearing notice.
Hearing notice, thank you, that's the correct phrase, the hearing notice. And then we'll be doing the Southampton Hospital freestanding emergency room. Now, these rules will apply for both public hearings. The public hearing announcement will be read. Then we'll receive word from our counsel with respect to whether or not the jurisdiction of the planning board has been obtained. Then we'll have a few brief words from the planning department describing the application, and then we'll hear from the public. The public comments are 3 minutes that you'll have to say whatever you like about whichever application you're here on. after everybody in the public has had who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so, we'll see if there's anybody who wishes to speak again, give an additional 3 minutes, and then after the public's had its opportunity to speak, then the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to what's been stated. The public portion of the meeting will then be closed, and we will keep the record open for written comments. Thomas, what is it, 30 days these days? Is that how long?
No, I think it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, very well. We'll be keeping the public record open for 2 weeks after tonight for written comments. So with that, Randy, if you
Excuse me, Chair, if I can just make
Can
a
I
quick
do something?
statement. Sam,
please.
this is Mike.
Yes, of course.
No, I just want to make a quick statement again. There are a handful of new participants in the Zoom meeting who weren't here at the beginning. And just please, if you're not going to comment on this current application or hearing, please mute yourself right now. And please hide your video. Some people's video is popping on and off. Some people's microphones is not. Please do that for the general need of the whole meeting to be efficient. That said, Chairman Kramer, you can continue.
Thanks. Yeah, we don't want feedback and technical glitches. So again, and I want to thank everybody who participates in these public hearings through Zoom. I know it's a more cumbersome process than just coming down to town hall, getting in line and speaking. But the public hearing aspect of these matters is an essential part of the process. And we are doing the best we can in these times of COVID and post-COVID, if we're there yet. So with that, Randy, Nick Cohen, Art Studio, please read out the announcement.
Public hearing notice. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard to consider said application. Public hearing will be held locally by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. There was a little tech glitch, Randy, with what you're reading. If this is important that every word is read, if you could start that last sentence again. Your internet connection dropped out.
Yeah, I'm having that problem too. From where, Mike?
Just go back one full sentence.
The public hearing will be held electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, ltveh.org. The public shall not be permitted to appear in person, but may comment by telephone by calling 351-888-6331. A transcript of the hearing will also be posted to the town's website after the hearing, and the hearing shall remain open until December 1st, 2021, or within 1 week of posting of the transcript on the town's website, whichever is later, for the purpose of receiving written comments. Written comments may be submitted by email directed to planningboard@ehamptonnewyork.gov and by mail to 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937, and received on or before close of business on December 1st, 2021, or within 1 week of posting of the transcript on the town's website, whichever is later. The public hearing will be held to consider the application of Nick Cohen Artist Studio approval pursuant to Article 11 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to construct a 26-foot by 40-foot or 1,094 square foot artist studio on a vacant parcel. The property contains 25,222 square feet and is located at 10 Lafayette Place, Springs, and is situated in a B residence zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton, and is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel 394-2. The Nick Cohen Artist Studio file is available for inspection at the Planning Board office, Suite 103, 300 Panago Place, East Hampton, New York. Let's see. Dated October 27, 2021, Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you, Randy. Thomas, do we have jurisdiction on this?
I have read the affidavit of service and posting, and it appears the notice has been adequate.
Thank you very much. Okay, Planning Department. Eric? Eric? Chance?
Marco's gonna.
It's Marco's application. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Marco, you want to give us a little thumbnail on this?
Yeah, this is just this is a parcel that's about 25,000 square feet. This is to construct a roughly 1,000 square foot artist studio on top of that. There were some issues regarding some clearing that were addressed in a site plan element, site plan application. So there's an area of revegetation. Outside of that, those are the majority of the issues regarding the board determining if this is an artist studio, if the size is warranted, have been discussed. And if anyone has any questions about those, they can ask that if needed. That's about it, really.
Okay, very well. All right. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak on the Nick Cohen Artist Studio application, please, LTV, I'm going to need a hand on this. Unmute yourselves and identify. Well, I'm going to leave it to LTV to be the gatekeeper here. I'll just let you know that, again, you have 3 minutes, and I'm going to keep track here on my clock. And when you approach around 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I'll let you know that you got 20 seconds left.
So yes, Chairman Kramer, I have 4 callers on hold, 2 of which I know are for upcoming applications, but there are 2 that are not, so I'll go through them in order. The first caller I see has a phone ending in 5694, and I'll unmute that caller now and see if it pertains to this application.
Thanks very much.
Hello, caller. Yes, caller with the phone ending in 5694. Can you identify yourself, please?
My name is Mike Benton. I'm a commissioner with the Springs Fire District, and I wanted to discuss the second meeting you're going to have.
Thank you.
The Southampton emergency room application?
Yes, please.
Okay, if you go back and
I'll put you on a brief hold. Yep, I'll put you on a brief hold, and I see one other caller with the phone ending in 0015. I'll unmute that caller now.
Mike, can you ask them to state and spell their name, please?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone ending in 0015. You're live with the planning board. Are you there?
Yes, it's Chris Becker calling about from the Amagansett Fire Department, calling about the ER, which I think is next.
And Dan Shields is also with him, Chairman of the Commissioners.
All right, so you're going to be on the next topic. I'll mute you, and when you come back, we'll ask you to state your name at that time. Okay, Chair?
Okay.
I'm going to mute them now.
Thank you very much.
I see 2 other callers who have confirmed with Thomas. They're for upcoming discussions, so there are no... Oop, sorry. Speak too soon. There's a new caller right this second. Last 4 digits of this phone number are 8086. I'll unmute this caller now.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, caller. Please state and spell your full name.
My name is Gerard Lally, and I live at 5 Lafayette Place.
And are you calling about the Nick Cohen Artist Studio?
Pardon me? Yes.
Proceed.
5 Lafayette Place.
So you're calling about the Nick Cohen Artist Studio public hearing? Is that why you're on?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and when you get to about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I'll let you know that you got 20 seconds left. So go right ahead.
Well, I don't even know if I have 3 minutes. First of all, this lot was cleared
over a year ago, and it's just been an eyesore ever since, with nothing happening. Stumps, logs all over the place. I don't understand that. I really don't. I heard that it was cleared without a permit. I don't understand that either. Thing is, the applicant wants to put a artist studio, as I understand it, close to the property line. Is his intent at some point to get a variance to put a house there? Or is he going to put up art on the property and make a driveway so cars are coming up and down the street? You know, is he going to display this outside? It's just a small part of the property. So really, that's you know, I'm upset with the way it has looked for over a year. But that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, LTV, are there any other callers seeking to get on to give us any public comments on this application?
No, Chair.
Okay. In that case, Thomas, do we need a resolution to close the public hearing?
Well, hold on a second. Mike, have we heard from every caller that's on the line that they're on the next application?
I can go through, I had communicated to you as to who is waiting, but I can open them up just to clarify 100%. I see a caller whose phone ends in 1000. I'll unmute that caller now.
Hi, George Biondo, and I'm calling about the second hearing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to mute you again. And there is one other caller whose phone ends in 5531. I'll unmute that caller now. Caller with the phone ending in 5531, are you there? Chair, their line is open and available if they're not speaking. My assumption is they're holding on.
Very well.
I'll mute that
right,
caller.
Thomas,
there are no other callers.
Do we need a resolution to close the spoken part of the public hearing?
Well, typically you give an opportunity to the applicant to speak.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Is Mr. Cohen on, or just counsel?
Hi. Hey, guys. Thank you for having me on.
I thought I saw you.
To the last caller, I feel terrible about the property clearing. We've gone through this. I'm trying to amend it all and be a good neighbor, and that's all, really.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, all right, with that, I think we should take a resolution to close the public hearing, leaving the opportunity for written comment open for 2 weeks. Can I get a motion on that? So everybody's muted. LTV, everyone's muted.
So moved. Second.
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 Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the spoken portion of the public hearing is closed, and the record remains open for 2 weeks for spoken comment, written comment, pardon me. All right, moving on now to the Southampton Hospital freestanding emergency room. Again, the same process will follow. Ian, if you'll read out the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard to consider said application. The public hearing will be held electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV, channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, ltveh.org. The public shall not be permitted to appear in person, but may comment by telephone by calling 351-888-6331. A transcript of the hearing will also be posted to the town's website after the hearing, and the hearing shall remain open until December 1st, 2021, or within 1 week of posting of the transcript on the town's website, whichever is later, for the purposes of receiving written comments. Written comments may be submitted by email directed to Planning Board at ehampton.ny.gov and by mail to 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937, and received on or before close of business on December 1st, 2021. The public hearing will be held to consider the application of Southampton Hospital freestanding emergency room site plan special permit approval pursuant to Articles 5 and 6 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to remove 2 baseball fields and associated accessory structures and to replace them with a new freestanding emergency department and outpatient diagnostic and imaging center. The hospital emergency department is proposed to be approximately 23,830 square feet with an accessory ambulance garage and approximately 810 square feet and a generator enclosure of approximately 4,556 square feet. The proposed design will create a new revised traffic connection to Panago Place and Town Hall, parking, landscaping, lighting, and utilities. The property contains 193,026 square feet and is located on the north side of Panago Place, East Hampton, and is situated in Parks and Conservation, PC zoning district, and is within the Affordable Housing Overlay District, AHO, as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton and is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel number 300-156-5-13.3, 400 Panago Place. Subject application is classified as a Type 1 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. A set of plans prepared by Perkins Eastman, including cover sheet, drawing list, site review, G-00, dated April 21st, 2021. Existing site survey, SU-100, dated January 23rd, 2020. Reference drawings, C-001. Reference drawings, C-002. Erosion and sediment control plan, C-111. Site removals, C-121. Site plan, C-131. Grading and drainage plan, C-141. Drainage geometry plan, C-142. Utility plan, C-151. Site lighting plan, C-161. Site details, C-501. Stormwater and utility details 1, C-502, stormwater and utility details 2, C-503, and stormwater and utility details 3, C-504, dated August 14th, 2020. Landscape plan, L-100. Contextual site plan, AS-001. Architectural site plan, AS-100. First floor plan, A-100. Roof plan, A-104. Building isometrics and exterior envelope legend, A-200. A-211. And garage plans, elevation selections, and legend, A-400, dated April 21st, 2021, are available for inspection at the Planning Board Office, Suite 103, 300 Panago Place, East Hampton, New York, dated October 27th, 2021. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you, Ian. You can take a rest now. Okay. All right. Thomas, do we have jurisdiction on this one?
I have reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and it appears the notice is adequate.
Very well. Okay. Eric, I guess this one is yours to give us a thumbnail.
Yep,
Go
sure. Okay, so what I'm going to start out by doing is screen sharing if I can here, there we go, cooperating, an aerial photograph of the general area of the property here where the facility is proposed. As you can see, it's highlighted in the middle of the screen. You can see the existing ball fields there. It is just to the west of the intersection of Montauk Highway and Southampton Road. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this location. It's right next to Town Hall, just to the east of it, at the terminus of Panago Place, the cul-de-sac there. So what I'm going to do, hopefully I can transition evenly to this picture. Hopefully everyone can see the overall site plan now. The applicants have submitted a full set of plans. What you can see here is the roughly 24,000 square foot freestanding emergency room or department building, which is basically in the center of the screen here. You can see that there are 2 parking areas, an employee parking area to the left as you view this, and a parking area for the general public to the south, which is to the bottom of the screen. As you can see, if you look to the lower right-hand corner, that is an access that will be used by the public and then it branches off to an ambulance-only access around the back of the building. You can see a number of ambulances illustrated as being parked in these receiving bays at the rear of the facility. There's a generator proposed as well. This project has gone through a number of changes. Originally, there was a helipad proposed and a number of other features. Originally, the building was about a third larger than how it is proposed right now. But basically, this is the overall site plan. This set of plans that was submitted by the applicants, as you can tell from Ian reading the notice, was quite substantial and thorough. So if anyone from the public needs any of these plans, I'll scroll down. This is a overall site grading plan. I'll just go through a couple of them. This is the drainage plan, utilities. This is a lighting plan. There's a comprehensive site landscaping plan as well, which is shown here. And then also that's just the general area. And then also there is a floor plan here, which shows you the different rooms that are proposed, the different functions of the rooms. I can zoom in with all of these plans. The applicants also did submit elevation plans and some more artistic renderings of the proposed building. So I have these plans here, and I will leave it on the overall site plan for the members of the public. But if you would like to see any of these specific plans, just let me know and I can change to any of them as you speak and comment. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, once again, to the members of the public, you'll each have 3 minutes to speak. When you get to around 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I'll give you a heads up that you've got about 20 seconds to go. After everybody's spoken once, if anybody has any further comments, we'll give you an opportunity, give you another 3 minutes. Then once the public has spoken, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. And then the public spoken comment part of the public hearing will be ended, and the record will remain open for 2 weeks for written comment. So with that, I'm going to allow Michael at LTV to be our gatekeeper. Michael, go right ahead. And again, as soon as the applicant, the person wishing to speak comes on, please say and spell your name and give us your address, and I'll hit start on my clock.
Thank you, Chairman Kramer. Yes. So the first caller I see has a phone in ending in 0015. I will unmute that caller now. If I remember, there are two people who will be speaking on this line. If they could both say and spell their full names. Again, I'm going to unmute that caller now.
Hi, Dan Shields from the Amagansett Fire District, DANSHIELDS.
And it's Chris Becker from the Amagansett Fire Department. Chris, CHRIS, BECKERD.
Go right ahead.
We just want you to know the Amagansett Fire District fully supports this new building, emergency room in the town of East Hampton, for all the needs in the East End Township. It's much needed, and we would totally like to see it go through. It's benefit us big time.
Chris Becker, I just want to support this. I'd like to see it go through. It'll provide a lot of less stress for our volunteers to spend hours at a time on each call going to Southampton. It'll be extremely beneficial to the citizens of Amagansett and all of the East End.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Very well. Thank you very much for your comments. Going LTV, keep going. Thank you. Please go on to the next caller.
Yes, moving on. The next caller's phone ends in 5694. I'll unmute that caller now.
Caller, your name, please spell it, and your address.
Caller, your phone ends in 5694. If you can hear us, you're live on the air.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Mike Benton, B-E-N-T-O-N. I live at 337 3 Mile Harbor Road, East Hampton. I am a Commissioner with Springs Fire District, and I would like to say that we approve of this emergency room. We think it's going to be a lifesaver. Just on turnaround times of getting our paramedics and our ambulances back in service is going to be a game changer out here. So I totally approve and on board with it. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, LTV, next caller, please.
Yes, moving on. I see the next caller with the phone ending in 9602. I'll unmute that caller now.
Hi, Chairman Kramer, members of the Planning Board. This is Larry Cantwell in East Hampton. I think this emergency facility is probably the most important improvement in emergency medical care in probably the history of our town. And I'm calling to support it wholeheartedly. And I know the Planning Board's done a thorough job reviewing it, and that the applicant has been responsive to the concerns that have been raised by the Planning Board. And I urge you to complete this process and grant an approval so this facility can be built. You know, get in an ambulance in Montauk on a weekend, on a Friday afternoon in August, and drive to Southampton Hospital, and do that once, and you know how much need there is for this facility. I commend Southampton Hospital. Their leadership 5 years ago responded to the needs of, or the concerns of a number of people that live here, including myself, when we were concerned about the new hospital being built at the site of the Southampton College, and the additional time that it would take to get ambulances to Southampton. And they responded, and they committed to building this facility. I think they've raised the funds, and they're to be commended for responding to the needs in our community in East Hampton. And I urge the board to approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. LTV, the next caller, please.
Yes, moving on. The next caller I see has a phone ending in 1000. I'll unmute that caller now.
Hi, this is George Biondo, B-I-O-N-D-O. Good evening. I have been a full-time resident of Montauk for the past 45 years. And as part of this wonderful community, I've had innumerable trips to Southampton Hospital as a husband, a father, a grandfather, a neighbor, a friend, and sometimes as a patient. Each and every one of those trips was fraught with anxiety because each of them took too long. We all recognize that the incredible increase in traffic has made the trip to the hospital even worse now than it ever was, and this situation seems to be getting worse every day. Everyone knows that the time between realizing that emergency care is needed and actually arriving at a real emergency facility is absolutely critical. As things now stand, the risk of sick and injured people not getting to the emergency room fast enough has become a critical and sometimes life-threatening problem. That's because of the distance to the hospital and this incredible increase in traffic that have made the trip so slow and difficult as to sometimes prevent timely medical intervention and care, and even saving of lives. I think it's fair to say that the situation has now reached the breaking point. Construction of this new fully staffed 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, state-of-the-art emergency department right next to our town hall in East Hampton will help us to dramatically improve this terrible situation. It will enable the availability and delivery of medical emergency services in half the time or less than they now require. We cannot ignore this very real problem any longer. The time for this facility is now. Therefore, I most respectfully ask you, the Planning Board, to approve this project now. And by doing so, you will undeniably improve the health, safety, and welfare of our community and all of us who love living in this beautiful area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, LTV, next, please.
Yes, moving on. The next caller I see's phone ends in 2557. I'll unmute that caller now.
Hi, this is Debbie O'Brien, O'Brien. I'm the president of Sag Harbor Ambulance Corps, and we fully wish this to happen. The medical care on the East End, because of traffic and population, has really taxed the volunteers to a degree that we are losing volunteers because it takes way too long to get back and forth from the hospital. And I totally agree with the previous speaker. Going from Montauk is horrible, and it can cost somebody's life. Please allow this to happen.
Chair, I believe they're done.
Yep, thank you. I was just looking at my clock there. We have the next one. Please give us the next one.
Yes, the next caller I see's phone ends in 1832. I'll unmute that caller now.
Caller?
Caller with your phone ending in 1832, you're open to communicate to the planning board. Are you there? Hearing nothing,
Okay.
Chairman, I'll move on.
Go on to them.
The next caller I see has a phone ending in 5615. I'll unmute that caller now.
Hello?
Hello, caller. You're
Hello.
live with the planning board. Please state and spell your full name.
And your address.
Hi, my name is Terry Berger, and I am a full-time Montauk Round resident and senior citizen, and I am just calling. I won't repeat everything that you've heard before, but I am in complete favor of this project moving forward, and I urge you to take into account all the pleas. You all know how desperate it is, and particularly coming from Montauk, as you've heard much already, that I am completely in favor of you moving forward this project as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. The next caller, please.
Chairman Kramer, looking at the list, there are no callers who haven't spoken. There are a few people who are staying on, but everyone who has called in, who has waited to speak, has spoken.
Very well. Okay.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman,
I'm sorry.
there are a couple of us on iPads or on our laptops waiting to speak.
Oh, okay. LTV, how can we regulate those calls?
That's not a call, Chair. There are a handful of individuals, like Mr. Forbes I'm seeing on Zoom, who have been given the Zoom link, who are in the Zoom actual video. He is one of them. So is there anyone other than Jim who can please acknowledge that they're in the Zoom right now and wants to comment on this?
Yes, David Gilmartin. I represent the hospital in connection with the application. I'm from Farrell Fritz.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the, are you the only person speaking on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Gilmartin?
I believe so, unless Robert Ross, who I know is on, wants to comment, but so far it's been all positive, so I don't think...
Okay, all right, well, then I'm sure your comments will be quick. But before that, let's hear from Mr. Forbes. If there's nobody else after Mr. Forbes on the Zoom link, we'll then go to you, Mr. Gilmartin. Mr. Forbes, please go right ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Kramer and the Planning Board. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant here, Southampton Hospital, the emergency room project. My name is Jim Forbes, Forbes. I live in East Hampton on Hunting Lane. I just wanted to say a few things here, and I don't want to echo too much of what has been said before, but I agree. This is the most important project, not just in healthcare, but arguably for the citizens of East Hampton, the East End in the last 25 years. There's a concept in medicine called the golden hour, that if you are a stroke or heart attack victim, particularly stroke victims, receiving TPA within an hour to stop the clot and to avoid brain damage. So I think it is imperative that we move forward with this project. As you know, in the summertime, as George Biondo and others have discussed, from East Hampton, Amagansett, whatever, on certain afternoons, it could take you 45 minutes to an hour to get to the emergency room in Southampton. And that is a critically important time period for a number of patients. Second, as you've heard from the folks from the various emergency transport systems around the area, from Sag Harbor, Montauk, East Hampton, Amagansett, the travel time, not only getting to drop off a patient that is critically ill, but then trying to get back so they might be able to serve another patient, can take forever. So it's that round trip that could actually cost someone's life at the end of the day. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning here is the fact that there's going to be imaging and a lab in this project. If you think about the beginning of the pandemic and last year, when people were trying to get tested, you'll now have access to a lab that will be right there in Amagansett, and also a CT scanner, X-ray, ultrasound, et cetera, right there in Amagansett. You will not have to travel anymore to Southampton at that point. So I would urge you to approve this project expeditiously. I know it's been considered. We've made some changes. As Mr. Cantwell said, we have raised now over $30 million, which I think is indicative of the support from the community. It is actually one of the largest fundraising efforts you've ever seen in this community, and has been done very quietly. And so I think that, as I said, is very indicative of this. So I would just ask your speedy approval here. Obviously, we would like to be able to open this by the early summer of 2023. And if we can break ground soon, we can have this open for the summer of 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, with that.
Excuse me, Chair. If I could just.
Do we have anyone else?
Yes, there is another individual that's recently joined us, Sheila Rogers. I believe she'd like to make a comment.
Please. Is she on?
She's on Zoom.
The phone?
She's on Zoom. Sheila, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I don't see Ms. Rogers on my.
I'm prompting her to start her video. Ms. Rogers, would you like to start your video or just speak?
There you are. Okay, very well. Ms. Rogers, if you could spell your name and you give your address, please.
Sheila Rogers, 18 Saddle Lane in East Hampton. I'm speaking tonight in support of the proposed satellite emergency department on behalf of myself and as executive director of the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation. As you know, the foundation is a neighbor of the proposed emergency department on Pantago Place. And from the beginning, when we started our project in 1998, we always believed that having a hospital-run emergency department in our town would address the critical unmet healthcare needs for our citizens. We made many healthcare improvements over the past 20 plus years, but a project like this was just out of our realm. So we are looking forward to having the satellite emergency department as our neighbor, and will continue to collaborate with the administration so that together we can help provide the very best medical care to residents and visitors in East Hampton. There are many reasons that this project should be approved, from traffic to demands on our emergency services to critical timing for all of our patients, whether they're cardiac, neurology, or anything else. And I'm sure that you have heard all about them in the past. So from my perspective and the perspective of the trustees of the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation, we believe that approval of this project is very, very important, and nothing should be a barrier to the health of East Hampton. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, LTV. Michael,
Yes,
do we have anything else?
excuse me, Chairman. Yes, there was a recent person who joined the Zoom meeting just under the name Home. Excuse me, whomever this is, could you explain why you're here?
Sure. I actually tried to get on the phone line, but I didn't hear my number come up. So I joined the Zoom last minute. My name is Lisa Chard. LISACHARDE. I am the chief with the East Hampton Village Ambulance Association. We operate out of 1 Cedar Street, the headquarters there. And this past year, we will have had over 1,300 calls for emergencies. And we are calling in support of the hospital's application to construct this freestanding emergency department. And a department that is, by the way, being built 100% of donations. $35 million worth. We do believe that having the emergency department there will benefit us in ways that will include not only the members of our department, but the public in general. Getting faster diagnosis and treatments, of course, for the patients is paramount. But presently for our members, the calls can take up to 2 hours in our district, and Montauk, I'm sure, is much more. Summer can be 2.5 hours sometimes, just trying to come back. We do believe that putting this facility there will put a major dent in those long transports that in turn will help us with our recruitment and retention of our volunteer members. Shorter transport times also allow us to get back into service for that next call. East Hampton Village Ambulance Association supports this project 110%.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, LTV, Michael, do we have anything else? Anyone else who
Yes,
would just speak?
well, Chairman, there's a new admission into Zoom with just via a phone. There's a phone caller on Zoom whose phone ends in 3612. Caller through Zoom, could you identify yourself, please?
That's for Wayne Scott. That's counsel for the next application.
Okay, thank you. Then I believe David Gilmartin would be the last.
Okay, Mr. Gilmartin, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, David Gilmartin, Gilmartin, from the law firm Farrell Fritz. And I would just say quickly that we look forward to completing this process quickly. We also look forward to serving the East Hampton community and hope that we can bring this to a conclusion expeditiously. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to close the spoken comments part of the public hearing. And is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried, 7-0. So again, anyone out there who wishes to put in a written comment, you have 2 weeks. And with that, I again thank everybody in the public and in our planning board and planning department staff, and of course LTV. Michael, thank you. We're now going to move on to the Wayne Scott Commercial Center subdivision application. Tonight's issue is the traffic study. We're going to hear from, we'll have Mr. Shantz will give us some background, and then the applicant will be given an opportunity to speak on this, again, on the traffic study issues. And it should be noted that there's been correspondence back and forth between the applicant's consultants and the planning board's consultants. Most recent of which is was on November 15th, a letter from Dunn Engineering that was responsive to comments from that Dunn Engineering being the applicant's consultant, Those were responsive to comments from LKMA, dated September 17th. That was the planning board's consultant. And so we want to give everybody an opportunity to be heard. I think what we'll do is we'll give Eric will actually quarterback, if you will, the planning department's comments. Keep those, please, between 10 and 15 minutes. I'll also ask then the applicant, if they wish to speak, again, keep it between 10 and 15 minutes. And then the board will take up the, and then we'll give our consultants a chance to respond. And then the board will take up the application for the duration of the conversation. After we're done, if it seems appropriate at that point, we'll be preparing a resolution. There'll be a resolution circulated. We'll take a break, and the board will read it, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss and presumably vote on the resolution. Thomas, did I get all that right?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chair. Could I make a quick statement? I do see on the phone there is a Dun Engineering. Would you like that person opened up now?
Yes.
Or, okay.
They should certainly be part of this conversation.
I can just leave the phone line open. I can have the individual introduce himself at the moment right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I see that's the number ending. Is that
55?
ending
No,
3612?
this is through the phone system. They're through the phone, not through Zoom. If you'd like them to be open, they can speak when called upon.
Well, they'll be presumably called upon by the applicant.
Okay, so we'll wait.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry?
Hi, Mr. Kramer.
Mr. Voorhees, how are you, sir?
Voorhees, good. So presume if the board is going to take up the resolution as far as completeness of the EIS, and traffic is going to take a long period of time, I have one fairly short matter that I would love to be able to get on the table just for consideration. I don't know if that's appropriate at this time. I know Mr. Egan is here, and he had asked me to appear for an item related to the market study that's in the EIS. So it would take me 5 minutes at most.
I would like to get through the traffic conversation. Then before we move into the resolution and consideration that we can take that up and see what needs to be done. Because, the resolution is going to come last. So let's make sure that we have everything in place. And if that's one of the matters that needs to be put into that discussion, I think that would be the best time to bring it up. So if you don't mind, sitting around watching the discussion, get comfortable.
That's fine. I know you laid out the ground rules, and I just wanted to put it out there, so I appreciate that consideration.
Very well. Okay. I'm looking for Eric on my screen.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Go right ahead, Eric.
Okay. So the planning department previously prepared a memorandum for you dated September 17th of this year. I believe my associate here, Will Highland, had gone through a lot of our points at one of the previous meetings, but just to give a sort of chronological order, history of where we've been on this for the benefit of the public in particular. The applicants originally submitted the draft environmental impact statement, and it was reviewed in October of last year. The planning board, through their consultants FPM group, who are handling primarily groundwater and soil issues, and McLean and Associates, who are handling the traffic issues, as well as the planning department, considered the aspects of the draft environmental impact statement that they felt were still incomplete, and that is based on the final scope, which is an outline of that document that had been previously adopted. So the applicants, so that was the original version of the draft environmental impact statement. a revised draft environmental impact statement based on the comments of the planning board was submitted, dated August 30th. We received it September 7th of this year. So the board has reviewed this twice before already. I believe at the original discussion, which was October 27th of this year, the board had discussions about a lot of things, but including the general layout of the subdivision, which with that I'm going to screen share. What is the layout of the proposed subdivision, which is basically a 50-lot commercial industrial subdivision with buffered reserved areas around the perimeter of the site, which represents their yield on their maximum yield under zoning. So obviously, the applicants, as part of the environmental impact statement process, submitted various alternatives, which the board has been discussing. That again was discussed on October 27th. The board subsequently at their next meeting, which was a week after, November 3rd, mainly focused their conversations on groundwater. Ben Cansemi from FPM Group was here, as well as the applicants' representatives, Chick Voorhees, who just spoke earlier. And we had some discussions about what items were still needed to address the concerns of those consultants. I believe the direction that the chairman and the applicant and the applicant's the president of the LLC, which is the applicant, I believe the direction that they had agreed to go on this evening is really to focus on the traffic comments. You'll recall, and it is attached to my memorandum, the post-meeting memo that the planning board put out in October of last year. Bullet points the incomplete items, first starting with those identified by the planning department, then going into those identified by McLean and Associates, and then FPM Group. So basically, under SECRA, I'd like to not to speak as counsel, and obviously Thomas Crouch is here as counsel. So is Paul Van Cott. But under SECRA, the process here is not to introduce new items. It is to review the revised draft environmental impact statement, identify the areas that are still deficient, if there are some, and then require that those still be submitted by the applicant so that we can get a complete document. So at this time, I do believe that some of our comments are still outstanding. Some of the issues that we identified that had been called for in the scope. I believe that I don't think it's anyone's surprise or I'm misrepresenting the previous discussion that our consultants, along with the planning board, were in disagreement with the applicants and their consultants as to some of the items that were required specifically by FPM Group. Again, mainly focused on groundwater and soil testing. A big part of that was the call for additional groundwater and soil testing, but that was not the only outstanding issue. So at this time, I think that, the direction the board had agreed to take at the last meeting was to focus on the traffic issues, which again are outlined by bullet point in the board's previous incomplete memorandum. I would remind you again that the goal of the proceedings at this point, under the confines of SECRA, is to get a complete document. The board has adopted a scope, which calls for certain information. The purpose here is to have the draft environmental impact statement be complete so that this can be brought in front of the public and the process can be moved forward. It's not a decision-making point of the process in the fact that the applicants have not submitted complete information to you. At least that is our position, and I believe it is FPM's and McLean's, although I won't jump the gun and speak for them. But so basically, I'd like to make that distinction at this point in time that, I think it is obvious that you have had guidance from the planning department and FPM Group on the groundwater issues, that the applicants have not satisfied all of our original concerns outlined when we reviewed the the original submission of the draft environmental impact statement. So again, I will use that as a segue into the traffic issues, and I will leave that to the traffic consultants and the applicants, however you would like to order the conversation, Mr. Chairman.
We heard previously from the traffic from our traffic consultants, and at that point, the applicants' traffic consultants asked for to defer their comments. So I think the thing to do is to turn it over to the applicant now, if they wish to have any comments, complete or make their comments regarding the traffic study, and then we can hear from our traffic consultant in response, and then we can take it up with the board. So with that, Mr. Egan, I presume you're quarterbacking for the applicant? You're muted, David.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, member of the board. David Egan from David Egan & Associates. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak and work with the board on this matter. We have on the line Walter Dunn from Dunn Engineering. I think he's doing it by phone. He would like to address the board. Since we last spoke, Walter has had I know of 2 conversations with the town's consultant, and he has reported to us that they've been very positive and good conversations. And overall, our intent would be to address each and every of the traffic comments that were given to us. But I'll let Walter give you a little bit more detail of where we are, and I think it would be very good for the board to hear from our perspective. Thank you.
So, Chair, to that effect, I have that caller. I'll unmute the person now.
Please. Thank you, Mike.
Hello, Mr. Dunn. The line is open and available for him to speak. Excuse me, Mr. Dunn, are you there? And can you hear us? I do not hear.
Can you hear me?
I do not. I'm sorry, who is this?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Walter, go ahead.
It's good. Okay. Good evening, Chairman Kramer, members of the Planning Board, Planning Department, and Ray DeBias. My name is Walter Dunn, D-U-N-N. I'm president of Dunn Engineering Associates, located at 66 Main Street, West Hampton Beach, New York. My firm prepared the traffic impact study, the first addendum to the traffic impact study, and our response in our November 15th letter, which I refer to as our second addendum, which responded to McLean's comments in their 9/17/21 memo. As mentioned, over the last several weeks, I had the opportunity to get together with Ray DeBias by telephone conference, and in 2 conversations, we addressed the comments and concerns of both the town, of McLean, and of course the concerns that we had. And I'd like to take a few minutes just to fill you in on some of the key aspects that we have achieved and to indicate how these accomplishments will lead to the completion of the traffic engineering documents and the reviews. First, I'd like to point out to the board that Ray and I have known each other for over 40 years. We have worked together on numerous projects throughout Long Island, oftentimes on opposite sides of the table, but we've addressed the traffic engineering concerns and resolved them in the past. And I appreciate the opportunity to work on this project with Ray again. So let me look at some of the positive achievements that we've resulted over the last 2 weeks. First, in order to proceed to do some of the things that were requested of us, we had to have a affirmation of what directional distribution analysis we should use. The use of the data we had was from the Suffolk Cement truck deliveries, and it's rare that when you do a traffic impact study for a proposed development, that you have available data from that site for use that presently exists there. So we were quite happy to get that information. And the use of that data revealed that 40% of the traffic would come from the west, 40% would come from the east, and 20% would come from the north. Now, there are two other methods, and these two methods were discussed with Ray DeBias, and as a result of looking at these methods, he felt that we should come up with adjusting the data that we presented to look at the population distribution. So as a result, it was determined that we would use a new directional distribution, which had 50% of the traffic coming from and to the west, and 20% from the east, and 30% from the north. And this is reasonable, and we're now using it to proceed with the capacity analysis that they had asked for in the past. The second thing that we discussed was there was a requirement by Mr. DeBias and McLean to use a different day of the week than the counts we had collected. We had collected counts on a Thursday and a Saturday. And McLean wanted us to use traffic counts from a Friday to represent the highest weekday data. However, we pointed out to them that the New York State Department of Transportation, who has a responsibility of Montauk Highway Route 27 in front of the site, requires data for the weekdays to be collected on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to reflect an average weekday. Why they do this, essentially, is to avoid having to add a traffic signal for every new development throughout Long Island, which would create an atmosphere similar to Route 25, Jericho Turnpike, in Nassau County. We have numerous traffic signals, and even as close as 800 feet apart. And this, of course, is exactly opposite of what we wanted to accomplish and what the town of East Hampton desires. So as a result, our traffic impact study and the traffic engineering analyses show that there will be no traffic signal installations on Montauk Highway in Wainscott. None are necessary to mitigate the traffic impacts of this proposed development. The fears of having more signals along this section of Montauk Highway are now unfounded fears. No traffic signals are proposed as part of this project. The resolution reached with Mr. DeBias is to follow the requirements of the New York State Department of Transportation, Region 10. And we're doing this now and using the Thursday data that we collected and the Saturday data that the state also requires. So that's how that second major issue was resolved. The third issue that we discussed was the use of signing to prohibit left turns out of the northwest site access driveway by truck traffic that essentially would be leaving the site in a westbound direction to head southbound on Wainscott Northwest Road. Now, the effectiveness of signs was commented on by McLean to say that the signs are restricting truck traffic from making a left turn out of the northwest site access driveway was questioned. And essentially, it was noted that the town of East Hampton police do not have sufficient personnel to be assigned to this location on a full-time basis. Now, we were not insinuating that. We were saying that prohibitions could be done by signing and that there would be no need for the East Hampton Town Police to be there full-time to monitor, to make sure the area was using that appropriately and not making a left turn out by truck traffic. So, of course, we also pointed that no restrictions of southbound truck traffic was implemented as part of the approvals for the town's industrial park located on the south side of the airport, the north side of Industrial Road. So it didn't seem like it was a compatible solution. And we also pointed out that restrictions implemented for left turns out of sites have been put in place, such as at Speedway on Montauk Highway. Those restrictions were implemented by the State of New York Department of Transportation to prevent left turns out of the site. And, of course, they didn't need to have full-time observations by the town police. So the use of the emerging technologies and apps to provide information to motorists destined to Wainscott Commercial Center were included in our our recent November 15th letter responding to other comments that McLean had. So essentially, some of these new emerging technologies and apps have been used successfully by other agencies throughout New York State, throughout the country. And we feel that's the way that we're able to manage a lot of the traffic flow in and out of the site, directing them to one of the 4 access points, and to show that by having 4 access points, we minimize traffic congestion on the surrounding roadways because we have 4 points instead of just 1, which is often the case in developments such as this. So by spreading out the traffic into 4 points, it spreads out the traffic and does not create a point of congestion. Furthermore, as our plan, we have exercised good engineering judgment and good engineering design by having 2 internal roadways to help distribute the traffic internally rather than going to all one point on the outside. So this has been a good achievement with the conversations that we had. Now, what also happened here, just to highlight some of the other key points here, without taking much more time, is southbound traffic turning lanes were proposed on Wainscott Northwest Road. We had a figure in there because we learned that the property in the northwest corner of Wainscott Northwest Road and Montauk Highway was being sold, and we recommended the town to consider some additional widening of lanes, approach lanes, in the southbound direction at Montauk Highway. Evidently that passed and the town didn't make any movement on that. So we wanted to make clear, and we made clear to Mr. Tobias, that we have only recommended the addition of a southbound left turn lane to go along with the existing single lane, southbound lane, which would be a combined right turn and through movement. And this can be accommodated within the 50-foot right-of-way that exists at that location on Wainscott Northwest Road. We did not propose any widenings or addition of lanes along Wainscott Northwest Road, just at the southbound approach. And they could be accommodated with 32-foot wide roadway and 2 9-foot wide sidewalks, one on each side of the roadway. So these were a few of the things that we pointed out. Furthermore, there was some good beneficial traffic impacts that came out of our discussions with McLean in our presentations of previous comments. And one of them was a concern that the residents along Hedges Lane could be adversely impacted by people heading to the site and exiting the site, that some of these people and motorists would use Hedges Lane to go back and forth to that northeast corner where the northeast access driveway would be. And so we came back with a solution that McLean said they thought it was a good idea, and that was to provide a cul-de-sac on the northerly end of Hedges Lane so that there would be no traffic from the site coming either in a southbound or northbound direction on Hedges Lane, and that would preserve the residential integrity of the community there. So that was a beneficial traffic impact from our plan too. And of course, as I mentioned previously, the 2 internal roadways in the access plan was a way of managing traffic flow. Oftentimes we hear a statement that traffic is just like the weather. There is nothing you can do about it. But throughout my career, we've been able to show how traffic can be managed and how good engineering judgment can be used in the design of the site to minimize traffic impacts and in fact create beneficial impacts. That was like spreading the flow of traffic out and having the internal roadways to have the distribution to the lots through them. So as a result, I guess there was one more comment that we had, and that was on the roundabouts. In the Hamlet study with a recommendation to consider roundabouts on Montauk Highway at both Wainscott Northwest Road, where there is an existing traffic signal, and at Old Montauk Highway. Now, clearly it should be recognized that roundabouts would help, but they're not needed from the standpoint that we have not, we will not be causing the need for roundabouts at these 2 intersections. And certainly we have pointed out in the past that if the roundabouts were put in there, we would modify the approaches to the roadway so they could enter into the roundabout in a normal process of roundabouts. Our firm has designed roundabouts, and we know that McLean has designed roundabouts. And we've been very successful in those approaches, from being on roadways such as in the village of West Hampton Beach, on county roadways such as County Road 104 and 103, just north of Sunrise Highway in West Hampton area. And McLean has done a successful job of them in locations up in the town of Riverhead at the two major circles that were put in there. So we think that we've come up with an excellent plan, and we've developed it to manage the traffic flow and provide beneficial traffic impacts. In closing, now we've seemed to resolve almost all of the outstanding comments that were presented by the town and their consultant, and now we're in a position to be able to provide the information and data requested. As a result, we are in the position to complete the traffic engineering efforts in the next submission. Essentially, these are requiring us to redo the capacity analysis that we performed originally to implement the revised directional distribution and the use of the traffic count data. So I just wanted to make sure I was able to present a few of these points. And at this point, I'd like to urge again that each board member read each of our documents, our November 15th letter, as well as our traffic impact study and our addendum of June 2020. All of these issues are addressed and will now be completed so we can go on to the completion of the DEIS. So we hope you keep that in mind as you do your resolution tonight. I believe that's the major points that we wanted to make, and I appreciate the opportunity to work closely with the board and to Mr. DeBias to make sure it becomes a win-win situation for both the town and the applicant. Thank you very much.
Mr. Egan, do you have anything else that the applicant wishes to add with respect to traffic issues?
No, I think Mr. Dunn has done a wonderful job of telling you what we've done and what we're trying to do and what we have confidence we'll be able to do. Thank you.
How we're trying to get away with murder.
All right.
Excuse me, if I could just double check something, Chair. There's just been a comment made from a call. Is there somebody in the meeting with the phone ending in 3612 on Zoom? Can you identify yourself, please? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. All right, Paul Van Cott with Whiteman, Oshman, and Hannah. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Who do we have?
It's Paul. It's Paul Van Cott. He's from Whiteman Osterman. He's counsel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just please know that your microphone is open as you're calling in through a phone line. There's no way that I could ever mute yourself. So you're open and available to be heard.
Okay, very well. All right, but Mr. Egan, you have nothing else now, correct?
On traffic, yes.
On traffic.
But I would respectfully request that Mr. Voorhees be given some time after this.
Yeah, no, we'll do it. Before we move on, after we finish traffic, and if we then determine that it's appropriate to move on to the resolution, that's when Mr. Voorhees, I have.
Yeah, we would like it to occur before the resolution because
absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. Mr. DeBias.
Yes.
You wanted to respond.
Yes, I do. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. And thanks to Walter for some kind words there. We have known each other for 40 years, which is a long time. And oftentimes we're on opposite sides of the table. It's all handled professionally. And, we focus on traffic engineering and the principles that are involved in traffic engineering. I'd just like to go over some of the comments Walter addressed, and we did have two phone conversations after comments that I made in September, on September 17th, I believe. We spoke on November 3rd, and we spoke last Saturday, whatever date that was, prior to the memo coming in on Monday of this week, November 15th. Just to comment on a couple of points that we discussed and that Walter reiterated at the beginning of tonight. The traffic counts required by DOT, he had told me that DOT does not like on the East End to use Friday evening counts, even though it's consistent with design principles. You look at the 30th highest hour of the year. Typically, that occurs on a Friday night or a Monday morning. I had mentioned that we had done a study for the town in East Hampton, and we had settled on Friday evening. Walter noted that he had contacted DOT or had gotten response from DOT on other traffic studies on the East End that indicated that Tuesday through Thursday counts should be used as well as Saturday. I said to document that in his response, which he did, that DOT insists on that for the East End traffic studies. Since the critical intersections involved in this project in terms of traffic volumes are located on a state highway, we would normally defer to DOT to, if that's their guidance, we would normally defer to DOT in terms of count time periods that are used. I do have some comments about trucks on Wayne Scott Northwest Road. I'll get into those separately because I have a brief summary of comments I put together in response to the November 15th letter that were forwarded to the planning department and the board members, I believe, this morning. Walter also mentioned that there was a diagram in the report that indicated three southbound lanes on southbound Wayne Scott Northwest Road coming up to Montauk Highway, including a right turn lane, and indicated that that was only put in there because the property in the northwest corner of the intersection was for sale. He did make a statement just earlier today or earlier tonight that a 32-foot wide roadway would be adequate for two southbound lanes, which would be a through and a right turn lane combined, and a separate left turn lane and a northbound lane. That 32 feet would be adequate for that. Based on DOT design standards, the lanes would have to be wider. Typically, if you have curbing on both sides, they like 11-foot wide through lanes and an extra foot for the curb. So a curb lane would be 12-foot wide in each direction, and a turning lane could be 10-foot. That would leave less property on either side. That's probably a minor comment, but DOT would not like to see 3 lanes on a 32 feet roadway. Last thing I want to mention, yes, we're not saying that roundabouts are required of this developer. Roundabouts were proposed in the Wayne Scott Hamlet study. As I've mentioned before at meetings, the applicant is required to mitigate the traffic that he generates. So while roundabouts may be required specifically at Wayne Scott Northwest Road and Montauk Highway intersection now, due to current traffic conditions, the applicant is responsible to, and the expression is, mitigate what you generate. So any incremental traffic impact or traffic volumes would have to be mitigated with roadway improvements or signal coordinate, other types of coordination improvements. Now I'd like to just get into a memo that I had prepared, just summarizing some comments. And the first one, it covers Wayne Scott Northwest Road with respect to the fact that it's a residential roadway north of Montauk Highway. First of all, in the November 15th letter talks about attachments. None of the attachments were provided to us, so we don't have those. There were several attachments, including expanded capacity analysis printouts, which it's a little, I'll just give you an overview of that. Normally for an intersection capacity analysis, there's a page, a summary page. We like to see all the pages of the input and output to check on the input values to ensure that they're correct and they're reasonable, because there's a lot of assumptions that can be made in the input that don't show up on the one-page summary. We haven't seen those yet. I'm assuming they're available, but we haven't seen any of the attachments that are referenced in that letter. So on Wainscott Northwest Road in the residential area just north of Montauk Highway, one of the responses in the November 15th letter notes that as the buildings on each lot are completed, consideration will be given to implement a highway advisory radio system using a monopole antenna to provide information to occupants within vehicles. The discussion also goes on to include apps on cell phones, info kiosks, or screens and monitors in buildings on each lot, portable changeable message signs, and written handouts. I think our response to that is, first of all, that consideration of implementing a highway advisory radio system is not really clear if the applicant's going to pay for that. And in fact, who would be responsible for assessing the need for it beyond just consideration. Also, it's likely that daily traffic conditions aren't going to vary significantly. Once a repeat employee or driver, truck driver, visits the full development, they will know or they will learn, because traffic doesn't change that much from day to day. Montauk Highway, a lot of times, is at capacity. So there's a lot of use of alternate routes. I don't believe that all of the other devices that are mentioned, all the sophisticated intelligent traffic devices are really necessary in this location, that they're overkill. Really, we were focused on our initial comments on some truck route signs to get trucks to use the proper roadway, stay off Wainscott Northwest Road, and we really prefer that original recommendation. Another comment or response in the November 15th letter, we had made the comment that during construction, if there's 50 potential sites in this development, if 5 of them, or only 10%, develop concurrently, and with 20 workers on each site, that would result in 100 workers on the development site, plus additional truck deliveries, construction deliveries. So the response talks about the fact that the traffic generated using that assumption and that stage of development at one time in the area, those volumes are less than the ultimate volume, so the traffic could be accommodated on the roadway network. It's important to note here that while construction occurs, particularly during the first phase, it's not necessary that those roadway improvements will be implemented prior to construction. So when construction begins, there's no commitment to build the roadway improvements so that the construction traffic can be accommodated. So that needs to be clarified, and I think that conclusion needs to be made by the applicant, and that letter needs to be revised. Okay, back to Wainscott Northwest Road. I apparently in a video that of a meeting that was held on October 21st, 2020, that was a planning board meeting, I had said that if residents were allowed to turn left onto Wainscott Northwest Road at the northwest access point, a truck prohibition would also be needed on that roadway, since police don't have the staff to enforce that restriction. Response, as Walter noted, talks about the fact that continuous enforcement or daily enforcement would not be required. It could be part-time. And that a truck prohibition on Wainscott Northwest Road is not needed. The problem with that is even periodic enforcement would be difficult due to police department staff shortages. and would need to occur over a long period of time. I see in the recent documents that this is a 10-year project for construction. It's phased over a period of 10 years. To have police out there, even part-time, over a 10-year period would be probably unachievable by the town police department. In addition, if you have a truck driver coming out, there's a left turn prohibition to turn south on Wainscott Northwest Road. If the truck driver does not see a police car there, I would think the truck driver would like to attempt a left turn, knowing that they would not get a ticket. If they do see a police car there, they'll probably make a right turn and use other routes to exit the site so they don't get a ticket. So the enforcement issue is still an outstanding thing that needs to be addressed in terms of generating additional traffic, residential traffic on Wainscott Northwest Road. And the reference to the fact that there is truck traffic there from the development around the airport is not really appropriate or relative in this case to talk about a condition that was imposed or was not imposed on a prior development. We also made a comment that we feel very strongly about. Bathgate Road was proposed to be extended and also made one-way westbound. We had pointed out in previous comments that the primary disadvantage to that is someone coming south on Wainscott Northwest Road wants to visit a business that's along Bathgate Road, cannot turn into Bathgate Road. They need to continue down to Montauk Highway, make a left turn from Wainscott Northwest Road onto eastbound Montauk Highway, travel east, and then make another left turn through a gap in traffic, which sometimes may be difficult during peak hours. A lot of times, left turning vehicles are given a wave by an approaching motorist who stopped so that they can turn left. The response in the November 15th letter talks about a lot of advantages to making Bathgate Road one-way westbound in terms of, for example, reducing conflict points at the site access driveways of the businesses located between Route 27 and Bathgate Road. We feel that the primary disadvantage is outweighs all the advantages that are described in that letter. That's what I have as far as responses to the comments. Anyone have any questions for me?
Let's do the questions when the board discussion goes, because then the board may have questions for the applicant's expert as well. So if that's okay with you, Ray.
Sure.
Okay. With that, we're going to turn to the board. Sharon, you are the point, you are the committee on this, so take us away.
Okay. So I don't think I really want to get into a lot of the technical stuff that both of you have discussed at this point. I'm not sure if I'm, expert enough to decide whether one road should be one way or, exit points and cul-de-sacs and all of that. So I'm going to leave my comments more to, what's missing. I think you guys are going to decide between planning board and experts, but, traffic is probably the one thing that's going to affect 100% of the residences in, from probably Southampton all the way to Montauk. Okay. It's really the one thing that's going to affect every single person that comes out here. And I think what's missing needs to happen. And we need to know exactly what's, we can't know exactly, right? There's so much conjecture that goes on in this, I have a feeling, and that's why I have a hard time even grasping it. There's a lot of, saying if this happens and if this happens and if this happens. But my general feeling is that there's going to be a lot of traffic created by this property, and routing it south, north, in east, west, no matter what, there's just going to be a lot of cars coming out of this property. So you start to route them north, and then they're going to end up, I guess, going Daniels Hole Road and coming out onto 114. I mean, I do that a lot. I have a client at the airport, and taking that left, off of 114 can be really hairy in the summer as well. So now we're going to have a pileup happening there. So I don't know if that's been, and my apologies if that was studied in this traffic study, but I don't think it was. And the same thing with if trucks aren't able to go, if you put in a no truck and they can't take a left, sure, they're going to take a left. But if they start to go to the right, they're also having to come out somewhere. So they're going to end up on Daniels Hole Road, going to 27 on Daniels Hole and around. No matter what, these cars are getting onto 27. So we just need to have, the best picture that we can have of what's going to happen in terms of numbers. And I think so you've changed the percentages a little bit. And like I said, the experts can handle that. So I think the picture needs to be clear. And whatever is missing needs to be missing. And then the other comments I felt like, so what happens when you're looking for, to get out of a traffic jam, you're going to find whatever roads available. So I do feel like some analysis needs to happen as to what's going to happen when trucks start going into the neighborhood alongside the which is like Bath East Gate and West Gate. And I just, those apps, not the apps that you're talking about, but like Waze and GPS are going to start sending people into neighborhoods if things are piled up. So I just feel like we need to really understand how it's going to affect the residences in the neighborhood and how cars and trucks are going to work around the pileups are going to happen. I mean, there's already traffic, right? So we're creating more traffic on top of traffic. And that's all I have to say. I think it just needs to be a clear picture.
Thank you, Sharon. Before the board continues, I guess I'm compelled to ask the applicant a question, and that is essentially, we're faced with a deadline tonight to pass a resolution one way or the other. From what I just heard from Mr. Dunn and what I read in the November 15th letter from Dunn Engineering, there are any number of places where it says, for instance, on page 6, an electronic version of the traffic impact study dated June 2020 is attached, and that should have been included in the package. Then on page 7, this agreed upon alternative is still needed to complete the final DEIS. Based on what we've heard tonight, do you think the applicant needs additional time to work with the board's traffic consultant to complete the traffic aspects of the DEIS?
Mr. Chairman, can I speak to that, David?
Please, yes, I'm asking you specifically.
I don't think so. I believe that the things that weren't attached to this letter will be in the next version of the EIS. So you can assume, so to the extent that there's more discussions that need to occur between the experts in this area or any other experts, they can still occur. And they will be reflected in the next submission. So I don't think there's any reason to hold up the process, because you don't need everything in your hands. You're not going to have everything in your hands until we submit. So the resubmission is going to handle all that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're resubmitting, if you haven't submitted everything that you intend to submit, then by definition, it's not complete. At least insofar as what you're giving. Forget anything that the board might feel or that our experts might tell us.
I don't think there's an expectation that we were going to walk away with a complete DIS tonight. I think we're getting extremely close, and I think the next submission will do it. And that's why I think we can go ahead.
Well, I'll let Thomas correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm under the impression that we have to vote tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, yeah, it's really, I mean, the deadline is tonight. It's you know,
It's
up
the
to the
deadline's-
applicant, you know, if they intend to submit more information and want more time, and, you know, that's the option that's given. But if not, you know, the board can prepare a resolution tonight stating in which areas and which aspects the DEIS is incomplete, and they can take that information and resubmit, as, you know, Mr. Egan just said. So,
one thing I would like, and it would have been probably a better process if you would have shown us the resolution that you intend to adopt tonight, because if there's something on there that we would like to address or be done with, we're not going to get that opportunity. That's a little problematic to us because
the answer is really simple. I mean, extend the date, and we don't have to do it. You won't be faced with us voting on a resolution that we haven't even seen the final document, because, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to have to take a break at the end of this conversation, and we're going to have to, you know, the planning department's going to have to circulate a resolution that's going to reflect what we're saying about what the board's conversation about the traffic aspect. And in fact, what I just heard tonight was Mr. Voorhees has some things that he wants to add.
Well, yes, there's one issue that we want to talk about, because we don't want it to show up in the resolution and then be compelled to do something we think is unreasonable. So when's the next meeting? Can I ask when the next meeting is?
The next meeting is December 1st. So, I mean, what we could do is complete this discussion tonight and discuss the issue that Mr. Voorhees has, and then we can send you either tonight or tomorrow morning a draft of what the board is, you know, believes it will adopt, and then December 1st can adopt that resolution.
I think that's a much better process.
Yeah, no, well, David, I agree with you on that. Ordinarily, you know, the board finishes its conversation, a resolution is prepared, it's circulated prior to the meeting. If the applicant reads something in that resolution that they think is wrong, they have the opportunity ahead of the meeting to give us comments, and the board can discuss those comments when the resolution is taken up. But
that would be the best way to do it. I think that's fine.
And listen, we've been working together very well on deadlines. The problem that we have is the deadline of tonight. So if you're representing right now, or, you know, acknowledging that we have more time, then we don't have to worry about doing the resolution tonight. We don't have to worry about taking a break.
I've made it very clear in my emails to Thomas and in our last meeting that we would work with you on dates that make sense, and this is clearly one of those. So there's no issue with us extending this to the next meeting. I thought that was assumed. If it isn't, then I will be glad to reinstate it, that we will be glad to extend the deadline for the board to make its determination with respect to completeness. But what I don't want, I want it not to go beyond that meeting, because what we don't want to do is what I think we've been doing here a little bit too much, is going beyond completeness, the goal of completeness, and getting much more into where we will be in the next step of the process, where more substantive issues will be discussed. So that's all I'm saying. So I think the best process for us and the board would be for us to extend to the 1st, and we will respond. Hopefully we would agree with you. We have a good idea what will be in that resolution. If something's in there that's surprising to us, then we'll reach out and talk about it.
That's great.
That would be great for everyone.
Okay, so just so that we're clear, in my role as the chair, I just want to, I'll state, and I'll ask you to agree, that the deadline for the resolution is now adjourned to December 1st, to our meeting of December 1st. Agreed? Agreed. Great. Okay. In that case, the board we're calling an audible. We'll have our discussion now about the traffic. We'll take up Mr. Voorhees' issue after we talk about the traffic, and then there'll be an application for an adjournment, and the planning department will prepare a resolution that will reflect the board, the sense of where the board's going, and that'll be circulated, and the applicant will have an opportunity to review that, and then we'll rejoin on at our meeting of December 1st, and we'll discuss the resolution. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Board, Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, great. That having been said,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do want to move on to the traffic discussion. I would like to touch on before the rest of the conversation. Sharon hit on some very important things, and I just want to say, as someone who lives in Wainscott and knows the road network very, very well over there, I have to say, in all candor, that the traffic study, as I read it, it just gives an inadequate treatment of the impact on the neighboring roads. And when you read through, and I've read every word of the whole EIS report, but particularly the traffic in the last 2 weeks, the Exhibit I, and the letters back and forth, and then most recently the letter from Dunn Engineering from 2 days ago. The biggest problem that I see, and this is referring to the Dunn Engineering letter, is that they concentrate on at least on the west side, on Wainscott Northwest Road, and I think it assumes that all the traffic certainly on the west side is going to be absorbed there, but it ignores the fact that if you come down Wainscott Northwest Road, and at the risk of giving away shortcuts that Wainscott residents know, you can cut across at Cow Hill Lane going west to Eastgate, and that connects to Route 27. Or you can go a little bit north across on Crossways to Westgate, and that takes to 27. And then you can continue on through Ardsley, Barclay, Clyden, and Darley to Town Line Road, and that'll take you to 27. And then you could even go across into Southampton Town on Scott Line and come out in Southampton Town on 27. And in my mind, there is absolutely no doubt that the traffic on Wainscott Northwest Road, which backs up from 27, is going to impact all the local streets. And I don't mean just the truck traffic, but I mean all anybody who comes to Wainscott Northwest Road and 27 sees a backup of traffic, and it's going to be worse and worse with 40 or 50 or however many lots are developed over there. And they're going to go on all those streets, which are all uniformly residential streets. They're all straight lines, and the impact on the traffic on those streets really needs to be considered by the traffic engineers. If you come down Wainscott Northwest Road from the north every morning, that small stretch of roadway between let's say Bathgate or Cow Hill and 27, it's got truck traffic going in and out of the seafood shop, which generally approaches from the south. It's got people coming in and out of the bagel store and Breadzilla, both of which have parking on Northwest Road. It's got people coming in and out of the walk-in clinic, which is on the other side of Northwest Road. And then it's got all the folks who are coming and going from the shopping center, which has Levain and Levain Bakery, and also the Wainscott Deli, and also the trade traffic that's going in and out of the paint store. And they all come out on Bathgate. And this is why you can't make Bathgate a westbound only road, because anybody who wants to go into the shopping center who doesn't want to do it on 27 has to go in through there's an access off of Bathgate. It's, 20 yards or 30 yards off of Wainscott Northwest Road. Likewise, anybody who wants to go down to the gas station on Georgica Road, has to cut back on Bathgate, and that requires eastbound traffic. So the point is, you've got an enormous amount of traffic every day coming and going in a little tiny part of Wainscott that inevitably is going to be just packed with traffic. It's already packed with traffic. And if you add 40 or 50 commercial uses coming out of the Wainscott Commercial Center, it's got to bleed into the whole Eastgate, Westgate part of Wainscott. I also, Ray mentioned that it was, there's parts of the letter, at least twice in the November 15th letter, that make reference to that there were no truck restrictions along Wainscott Northwest Road when the town granted approvals for the industrial park. That was 30 years ago? 20 years ago? It's completely irrelevant to what's going on today. I don't see that as any kind of valid argument. I'm also very concerned about the idea of relying on apps, which the purpose of which, as Sharon pointed out, is to direct you to easier places to drive. It's those apps, once the people get out of Wainscott Commercial Center, are going to be directed into the residential areas. So I don't think that's a very useful way of doing things. I don't think interior signage does the work. I'm no traffic engineer, and I'm not going to pretend to be. But I think that what needs to happen is there needs to be an internal staging of traffic inside the development so that the traffic issues are regulated inside the development before they go outside the development. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but it just doesn't seem to me to be sensible to leave everything to the drivers to find their most expeditious way out. I question. I'm not going to get into the methodologies that that Dunn Engineering used, but I do question the validity of the use of the cement trucks because right now the cement plant is in one place, and the trucks leave that one location. But when this development is completed, you're going to have developments, you're going to have commercial users all over. And whether they go northwest, south, or east is really going to depend on where the people who are driving those vehicles are coming from and going to. I just don't see that that's a valid basis. Last thing I'll say is this, and again, full disclosure, I live not far. I live near Office House Street. That's the best way to put it. The idea that you're going to direct traffic up Daniels Hole Road in any way is very, very troubling, because Daniels Hole Road, once you make the right at the gun club, is a windy, narrow, fairly sharp incline. Not terrible, but pretty sharp incline. And I think that directing traffic up there, it's purely residential, and it's going to dump off on Route 114. And as Sharon was talking about before, where does the traffic go then? You're going to end up putting a lot of traffic into Sag Harbor, and and that's only going to create more traffic problems. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And really rethinking the impacts on the neighboring road network. I think it's just not adequately addressed in any of the things that I've read. So with that, I'm turning over to the rest of the board. I think last week I started with Ed. So Randy, if you're there, Randy, okay, take it away.
I have a question. I'm not sure for who, but I'll ask Ray. Did we get a determination if Hedges Lane is a private road? Because that came up. Yep.
I haven't seen that. I know it's residential. I don't know if it's a private road.
Well, we have
that's in the traffic study as well.
We have a correspondence from neighbors, owners on Hedges, saying that it's a private road and that they're not going to allow access into the industrial park from across their road. So I think it has to be resolved. Is it a private road? Does this cul-de-sac, I understand the cul-de-sac idea, which seems like a good idea, but isn't the industrial park still coming across what's now Hedges Lane to get to Daniels Hole? So it just seems to me we haven't gotten clarity on that. We have correspondence about it. So and if it is a private road, how does that impact the thinking so far? I'm wondering too, this might be a question for Eric, a softball question, but the New York DOT is, I'm assuming, is an involved agency in the impact statement. Does that?
It's a good question. I believe that we counted them as one, counted them as an involved agency, sent lead agency requests, sent documentation to them. But technically, you're only an involved agency if you're doing something discretionary, offering a discretionary permit. So, like, for example, the Water Authority is not an involved agency under applications. So I guess the short answer is, unless there's something I don't know, yes, they are. And we have treated them that way and identified them that way from the beginning. But I suppose an argument could be made that they're not, because they're not discretionary as to whether or not this subdivision happens. There might be certain elements of it, but
okay.
Yes, I believe they are.
Okay, so because there's so much traffic analysis that relies on improvements, various improvements to 27, and that's a state road, and the town and the planning board and even the applicant can't force the state's hand on improvements on the state highway. I'm just wondering why don't we have more involvement with the state DOT in reviewing the impact statement? Why don't we have that? May be something Ray can do, but it seems like they're sort of
you don't have
they're a missing party.
Yeah, you don't have a complete impact statement at this point. During the secret process, when you do get a complete one, it'll be referred to all the involved agencies. The public will be made aware of it, and you'll get your initial round. Well, I mean, obviously there's been other rounds of public input, but your first initial round of input as to what the applicants are proposing and what the content of the environmental impact statement will be. It's common at that time that the DOT, various other entities, maybe the DEC, who has, submitted documentation, on various points of the issues here, but then that they would give their full input, because that the document, the environmental impact statement, the full document, or draft document, would be sent to them at that time. So that would be when they would be putting in their input as to, whether or not they feel what the applicant is proposing, what's illustrated in the alternatives, is feasible, or if they have recommendations, that they feel need to be implemented. So, yes, they should be involved, but I believe that the normal process is that would occur once we do get a complete, draft environmental impact statement.
But this is probably a question for Brian and Thomas. If we deem the draft complete, go to public hearing, get input from the state or anyone else that is a I guess the lawyers would call a material change or information that we weren't aware of. are we then can't say that that we want more input into the draft. The draft is done.
Yeah,
no?
It would behoove the applicant to follow what is going to be required of the DOT. You also have you can require addendums to environmental impact statements based on information that you receive. You may recall you did that with the Iacono Farm application, where that you had a final environmental impact statement, and then the issue of the brush dump came up, and you asked for more information about that in the form of an addendum. So it doesn't close the door if you get a substantive comment. It also is in the best interest of the applicants if to submit information. If the DOT is not going to grant them an approval for something, an approval that they're required to have, it makes no sense for them to just, say, no, we're not going to do that. And then you would just say, no, we're denying this application based on the grounds that, the DOT has specifically required something and that is necessary for safety and, proper traffic circulation, in that case. So, no, that's not the end of it.
Okay. Just for clarity now, we do, I understand the applicant wants to get through this phase of the process so we can discuss the alternatives, etc. But at this point, the alternatives we have right now that have been looked at in the draft in terms of all impacts and including traffic, this particular alternative, the 50 lot subdivision, as I read it, it has the most adverse impact of any of the different alternatives. Is that right, Ray, from your?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
That of all the alternatives that are included in the DEIS, this alternative that we're discussing, 50 lot subdivision, is the one that has the most amount of adverse impacts is in terms of traffic and frankly in terms of most of the other issues as well.
Most likely, yes.
Anything else, Randy?
No.
Okay. Kathy.
Coming. Hi. I'm just trying to keep my mute button off until necessary.
And you were frozen also. So.
Oh, was I? Okay. Well, I wasn't frozen here. Anyhow.
You're not frozen now. So
nice and warm over here. I want to thank the applicant and the timing of this. Helpful. You can't hear me?
Yeah, I was dropped out for the last.
Excuse me. Yeah, this is Mike at the station. I suffered like a pause for about 5 seconds with you, Kathy. I don't know if you want to repeat the last sentence or two.
I was just saying thanks to the applicant for working with us on the dates, that I was grateful for the collegiality here. And I think that's really, that's a nice thing on an application of import import for both the applicant and the community. I support our professionals, what Ray has had to contribute to this. I did want to say that I understand why the cement truck data made sense as a starting point. You do have some data where normally you don't, but I don't know that extrapolating that is a realistic assessment of what would happen, once the entire, the 50 lots were developed. I'm not sure that didn't feel to me like a necessarily a realistic assessment. One thing I did want to point out is Bathgate access. Bathgate, that all of those commercial entities along there, those retail shops, all the parking and all that stuff was put behind for a reason. That's a good planning principle. You don't want all those curb cuts along Montauk Highway. That's kind of the concept. That would be a planning principle that we would encourage, is to put, have the access and egress behind, off the main highway, because it's so congested there. So I can't imagine Bathgate becoming one way for many of the reasons Sam wrote down or illustrated for us. And the roads in this area, as a general principle, are already sort of maxed out. So I think we need more options to help the applicant get where they're going in order to mitigate the traffic that a project of this size will generate. I mean, I think that what I'm seeing is that the concerns that have been raised really do point to some other alternatives that might be a smaller development, that a smaller development might have fewer impacts of this sort, and that option would be useful for us to consider in more detail. The other thing I just want to close with is to say that, one of our primary obligations as the planning board is to mitigate the impacts of commercial development on residential communities. And I think that it's well stated by Sharon and everybody, really, that the traffic impacts of this are among the most critical pieces of this assessment, and that anything that we do that is going to redirect traffic to residential communities means we're failing in that obligation. So I would ask for more alternatives as in ways that the traffic can be contained on the site or otherwise mitigated on the site before it leaks out into the community. And that's generally it for me.
Okay, thanks very much, Kathy. Ian?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I don't have much to add here. I do think, as I think has been stated, we aren't the experts here. We have, hired experts, and I trust them very much. As Kathy has said, I'm happy to see that the applicant's experts and ours are working together to refine the DEIS, and I will let that play out, and I'm grateful for everybody's participation and agreement to extend the deadline so we can be more thorough and not have to be up against the deadline tonight. A couple of things I do want to mention. I think Randy hit on something important, which is we should get to the bottom of that Hedges Lane to make sure that, if that is usable or not, that is obviously a key component to the traffic study. We want to have accurate, thorough information, and we need to know if that is truly a private road that's going to be completely outside of this or not. Otherwise, I think that I will let this play out. And again, my default position is I trust very much our traffic engineer. I've witnessed and read along the dialogue between the two engineers, and I look forward to seeing them continue to work it out and getting a complete, thorough traffic study that we can analyze in a final DEIS and move the project forward, or the process forward anyway.
Thanks very much, Ian. Lou?
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to say, have similar comments to Ian. I read through the Exhibit I and all the letters back and forth between our respective consultants. And so my head exploded several times doing that. But I'm encouraged by the adversarial but professional relationship that we have between the two consultants across the table. So I have a lot of hope that and that was exhibited here tonight by listening to both Mr. Dunn and Mr. DeBias. I think, this traffic analysis requires very expert engineering effort. And there are many different issues that is laid out. By the way, I do want to commend the applicant, because I one thing you can't say about him is that they were lax in presenting a very thorough, exhaustive, and professional DEIS. Whether it's complete or not remains to be seen, but the effort is certainly to be commended. So I appreciate that. I just feel that I need to defer to the experts on both sides of the table to ensure that this DEIS traffic issues are all addressed. And it seems that the town consultant still requires more clarification, more data for the DEIS to be complete. So I leave it up to them to work that out. Just one last note, and I'm saying this as a layman in traffic expertise. I understand that the DEIS is supposed to present all of the ways that the applicant intends to mitigate, in this case, the traffic issues. So he, in one sense, he could complete a DEIS by presenting all of the mitigating factors or mitigating steps that are necessary. But that doesn't mean that those steps are adequate or that they will result in an improved situation if the property is developed. But is that a question for a later step in this process? Or is that something that needs to be addressed in terms of whether or not the DEIS is complete or not? Now, that's something that our town consultants would have to determine. But so the question is, if the applicant presents all of the necessary steps that he feels are necessary, but our consultant determines that, yes, the steps have been brought forward, but they're not sufficient enough to mitigate the traffic issues. Does that mean that the DEIS is not complete? So I'm just throwing that question. Anybody?
That should not necessarily mean that it's incomplete, but the details or the determining what roadway measures need to be the responsibility of the applicant is something that's down the road that'll be worked out and discussed.
So it would be complete, but then we would have to take it up later in the process.
Yeah,
right.
The idea is that the information allows the board to assess the impacts, and that the completeness determination is a statement that the board has enough information to assess what impacts there are, not that there are no impacts or that there are minimal impacts. It's assessing what the impacts are.
I see. Okay, thank you.
It's not just this board, it's any other board that considers the EIS. Remember, this is our EIS. It is a document that's produced by the planning board and that will be relied upon in other applications going forward, and not only here. So, all right, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, I mean, a lot has already been said about this, but it does strike me that what Sharon said about, there are a lot of ifs, there are a lot of variables here, right? And Ray, you kind of brought up the fact that, perhaps some of the numbers were a little on the low side in terms of how many people are going to be working on this site. Is it, if 5 sites developed, is it 20 people working every day on that site? I don't know. What does it look like when there are 5, 10, 20, 50, built out businesses? It's really difficult, I think, to get the numbers kind of right here and produce something that, that is reasonable. But I'll just join the other board members in commenting on the fact that, shortcuts through Wainscott, both through the whole North Wainscott Woods neighborhood, north of the highway from, Town Line Road through Eastgate, Ardsley, that whole thing that people do, already well-known, well-traveled, Cow Hill, those streets, and, very annoying to the people that live in the neighborhood now. And I would sort of add to that, even south of the highway, from Wainscott, going down Wainscott Hollow, Sayers Path, across Marywood, Two Rod Highway, that whole thing to get around the congestion in Wainscott Hamlet is already a thing. So, we definitely need to be looking at impacts on the neighborhood. There's no question about it, in a different way than we have so far. So I agree with my fellow board members on just about everything else. I'm going to leave it at that.
Very good. Okay, so all right, we have now had what I think is a fulsome discussion about the traffic impacts and the handling of those traffic impacts on the EIS. I would like to hear from Mr. Voorhees, as was promised. This is going to be an audible. I think I used that phrase earlier tonight, but it's applicable. So I guess if it's all right with Mr. Egan, I'll just hand it right over to Mr. Voorhees. Good, David? Thank you.
Thumbs up.
All right, you're on, Mr. Voorhees.
Great. Thanks so much. This won't be too long. So, good evening, planning board members and town representatives. For the record, my name is Chick Voorhees of Nelson Pope Voorhees, the environmental planning consultants for the project, as you know. I wanted to address the board with regard to one of the items in the September 17th, 2021 planning staff review that has not yet been discussed, but it may be easy to take care of. Before I do, I did want to mention that the STP alternative in the DEIS is the most impactful alternative that is studied. I believe Randall and Ray were discussing this before. Also, in response to Mr. Cortez's question, the seeker test is not if a project will result in an improved situation, but rather if there is a significant adverse impact. And I believe Ray DeBias covered this in his remarks. So back to my question. And as I said, I hope this is an easy one. The matter appears right at the top of page 5 in the planning staff report. And I'm going to read a passage that outlines what we're being requested to do. And I quote from page 5 of the letter. The planning department does not dispute the correctness of the conclusion that additional land lots for commercial/industrial use is in demand. However, the items in appendices B and C, and this pertains to the market study and some additional data on land use, the items in B and C do not, number one, take into account the availability of not only CI zoned properties, but also of other commercially zoned properties in the town where similar uses may be developed as required by the board. Or, number two, compare the need for more commercial sites against the need for other types of development, such as mixed use, multifamily, and single family, contemplated by the Hamlet Plan for properties involved in the project, also as required by the board. So that's quite a mouthful, but it is on the top of page 5. And I want to point out that our market study was for two purposes. Number one, it was to determine the demand for the project. And number two, to determine the likely types of uses that would occupy the site so we could prepare the realistic development scenario that was used as a basis for analysis in the revised DEIS. Now, as you note from the comments, staff has not questioned the development scenario that we came up with based on the market analysis. And I will say that that's one of the areas where we made real progress since the first DEIS review. I'd like to remind the board, there is no mention of a market study in the final scope. We prepared this to add information to the review process and address the staff's first review of the DEIS. In other words, we went above and beyond the final scope because we felt it was needed to address other questions, and it also helps us to evaluate a more realistic development, as well as to inform our client in marketing the property. So right off the bat, the request, in my opinion, is an overreach, but it also doesn't make sense. And I'm going to cover that on a couple of points. Specifically, staff requests that all commercially zoned land that could have similar uses be analyzed. As a professional planner, I don't feel this is appropriate. We analyzed CI zoning because that's what our land is zoned. Other commercial districts in the town are not comparable, appropriate, or applicable for this analysis. That's the reason for these other zoning districts, because they may be more suitable for other uses based on specific locations within the town, property size, surrounding uses, etc., and therefore differ from CI zoning. In addition, staff requests that we compare the need for our proposed use as compared to the need for other mixed-use, multifamily, and single-family uses for the site. I believe this is completely inappropriate. Besides being an overstatement of the Hamlet Plan, this effectively is asking us to defend our zoning category, which has been in effect since the first zoning ordinance in the town in the 1950s, and it hasn't been changed since, even after various comprehensive plans and Hamlet studies. We are very clear that there is a substantial need for the CI lots that are proposed, and staff agrees with this. So we meet the requirements of the final scope. Also, we're offering lots within the subdivision to the town for purchase in order to effectuate recommendations of the Hamlet study if they're desired by the town. So my request is that the planning board not require us to make these revisions to the DEIS based on these factors, which include the existing and long-term zoning of the site, the conformance with the final scope, the distinction between CI zoning and other commercial zoning in the town, and the absurd request to study mixed-use, multifamily, and single-family use on an existing industrial zone site that has existing industrial uses on it. Now, you mentioned this before. You know Mr. Tintle. He will work with you if he reasonably can. I believe your counsel said before that some of these requests may best be left for alternative analyses. And we have met the scope in terms of alternatives with a few revisions that we're making based on the latest staff comments. So at the beginning, I said this may be a softball, and that was one of Randall's terms. We know from these past two meetings that the primary concerns are soil and groundwater and traffic. As a result, I request that we not be required to make these changes to the market study, and I hope you will agree, I hope Eric will agree, and that you'll incorporate into your resolution or modify the letter to omit this request. Thank you very much for your attention, and that concludes my remarks.
Thanks very much. Eric, I know that's kind of I don't know if you were expecting that or anticipating that, but
probably not.
Maybe not. But I do want to give you a chance to get back to that. Please.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that heading into the meeting, but Mr. Voorhees was nice enough to identify that his comment was related to the market analysis. So that I sort of anticipated, and thank you for actually getting to the point of what we included, in our memorandum and the specific comments that we made. So I agree on some points, disagree on the others. On some others, I will say that I think that the revisions that we requested are not onerous, and I don't think would be difficult to produce. Mr. Voorhees did point out that, I stated in the memorandum, we do not dispute the correctness or conclusion that additional land or lots for commercial industrial uses are in demand. However, what we're curious about is the content of the market analysis and the extent of that demand. And that is very specific to, and I guess this is the first thing, well, I'll go in sort of chronological order here because it makes it easier. The first thing I disagree with Mr. Voorhees on, which is the scope, and this was the draft scope that was submitted by the applicants. I don't know the page. Unfortunately, when we did adopt the document, it doesn't include page numbers, which was foolish for future reference. But it's Part J, content requirements. And it says that the DIS will include the following elements will be included, and I'm quoting this, the very first part, a concise description of the proposed action, its purpose, public need and benefits, including social and economic considerations. So he's correct that the adopted final scope does not specifically say you must do a market analysis considering CI lots or anything to that specific effect. But it clearly says there that the DIS is going to include a description of the action, its purpose, public need, and economic consideration. So with that, going to the DEIS as it was originally submitted right in the beginning, it includes section 1.1.3, benefits of the proposed project and need, and it directs, the revised version directs, the reader to go to the market analysis. But it speaks in here of the fact, I'm paraphrasing here of what the applicants have submitted, but I don't think they disagree, that their statement is that there is a strong public need, not only for additional CI uses and lands for CI uses, which we agree with. My question is the extent and the quantity of those lots and lands. The Hamlet study, or the business study portion of the Hamlet study, concurs with that. And we noted in our memorandum of, so this was the first time we reviewed the original submission of the draft environmental impact statement, and the memorandum was dated October 14th, 2020. We referenced the fact that the Hamlet Business District Plan, which is part of the Hamlet Study Plan, makes mention of the importance of the construction trades to the economy of the town, but makes no such claims that additional CI zoning is required, let alone providing a figure in terms of the area or the number of lots. And in that same memorandum, further on, this is on page 4 of that memo, that particular section I just read you was page 3. But I identified the reasoning, what is behind the first point of additional information that I outlined in the October 2021 memo, September 17th, 2021 memo, which is saying that the market analysis essentially does not take into account the availability of not only CI zone properties, but also of other commercially zoned properties in the town where similar uses may be developed, which was originally previously required by the board. That was one of the bullet point items that came out of that October 2020 post-meeting memo to the applicants. But now I'm shifting to the applicant's market analysis, which they referenced. And on page 20, so I'm giving you an example here. On page 26, there's a bullet point, a list of a number of uses. Now, a lot of these uses are exclusive to the CI and CS zoning district. We don't have a lot of CS zoning, so I won't belabor that point. But, it says the types of goods and services, industrial, commercial, and service businesses and supporting industries that are most demanded and believed to be most suitable for the proposed subdivision include, and I won't go through everything, but it, first of all, it relates to storage areas, self-storage, warehouses, general warehousing, storage for local businesses. All of those are exclusive to the CI zoning district. So, I certainly would concede that the methodology of their market analysis say, they're saying we anticipate these uses and we're providing zoning that is, exclusively allows these uses. So, we certainly don't disagree with that. But then they go on to say, and that's the first, I think, 6 out of 15 identified uses that they anticipate and that they say they're providing land for. Storage space for personal collections, including exotic cars. That is a use in the town code, which is storage garage. That's also permitted in the CB zoning district. I won't go through all of these artist spaces and shop space. Artist shop is allowable in neighborhood business and central business as well. Custom workshops, those are also allowed in those 2 other zoning districts. Exercise studios, those are allowed. In fact, you don't really expect to see those in CI. Then they talk about wholesale food and beverage sales. Those are also allowed in various other zoning districts. Automotive parts stores, that's retail. That's allowed in NB and CB. But, so I won't belabor that point, but that was a reiteration of the point that was made in the memo that we put out again, dated October 14th of 2020, which was the initial review by the planning department and the consultants of the original draft environmental impact statement, where we made that exact same point. And really, the one use that isn't specifically listed in the market study that I think you're probably going to anticipate being the most likely use is service commercial, which is a contractor's shop, an electrician, a landscaper, something like that. And that is also allowed in NB and CB. So all of this, is sort of getting at, getting behind the numbers here. So there were no numbers given as to, we anticipate that we need an additional 60 CI lots. But it is getting back to the very beginning of the DEIS that was originally submitted, identifying the project need and the benefit to the public. So I do think that that's something that's important. Now, that being said, that point I made in that memo that I prefaced this request for additional information, or I should say information I feel was outlined in the scope, I still agree with that. I don't think it's rocket science to say that there is a use and a benefit to the economy to have additional, lots that can provide industrial uses. I just think that, characterizing it as saying, here's the uses we anticipate. And, so we need 50 lots because, we're going to, we need to provide space for these uses. It's not necessarily true that you need that many additional CI lots to for these uses to be provided throughout town. So that's where we were getting at with that comment. I think it's consistent with what the applicants put in the wording of the final scope as far as demonstrating the project need. What they did subsequently by identifying and submitting a market analysis to demonstrate that they need the requested number of CI lots. And then the second part, that was something, excuse me, I'm rambling on here. The second part was about comparing the need for more commercial sites against other types of development. That was directly related to the Hamlet Plan. So the Hamlet Plan, which, the applicants have submitted an alternative, which is an attempt to, if not mirror, at least honor the aspects of that plan that were unique, and that included, mixed use and other types of development. The market analysis basically only considers the applicant's proposal, which is a 50-lot commercial industrial subdivision. It doesn't provide any information or any estimation of the impacts and the public benefit and the applicant's benefit from something that is more in keeping with not only the vision of the Hamlet study as it exactly was, but also the Hamlet Plan alternative that the applicants have submitted. So that's where my comments came from on that. I don't think that that's actually onerous or difficult information to provide, but I think it is vital. If the market analysis is going to be the cornerstone on what the applicants are going to include in the DEIS as their stated need and their stated public benefit, which is right in the beginning of the document, I think that you need to have more information to get a more complete picture of what that benefit is, both to the public and to the applicant. So that's where we were coming from with those comments.
Okay. That is certainly helpful.
I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay, yeah. No, I just wanted to say that, ultimately, we can't determine the ultimate need. As you know, that's going to be based on market conditions.
Sure.
But the beauty of this development is that, if it's approved and the infrastructure is able to be put in place, it's essentially a micro-phased development that will only occur over time. And we're talking, nobody knows, 10 to 20, 30 years. So, that's what's ultimately going to determine this. Eric, your comments are very helpful just for us to understand a little bit more insight into those comments. As I said, I read the passage and you just went on for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. So it's helpful. Yep, go ahead, Mr.
No. Please finish. Then I just say something and we'll wrap.
So we'll take that under consideration. I don't know if it's as easy a task to produce as what you're considering. So maybe some more insight in that regard would be helpful. And certainly we do understand the conditions in Wainscott, the zoning between our team. And, if there's a way to get to the bottom of it, we will. I do feel that it does go a bit beyond what I was expecting. And I don't know that it's necessarily germane to those key parts that are really required in all seeker documents, and that's purpose, need, project benefits, and things like that. So I think it's been covered. We're looking to get a complete DEIS, obviously. That's going to be up to the board. But, my request is still out there to consider trimming back some of these requests. But perhaps if we discuss it more and have more understanding, we can get to the bottom of it. So I thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And, this is an important discussion at the end. So I'm very glad that we had it, and that, as long as it went, I think there's a lot of value to it. I just want to, it's 9:40. I don't want to go any longer, but I before we take a motion to adjourn, one of the problems with planning in the modern world is that all too often you're dealing with micro planning. You're dealing with, single applications, single acres, and trying to figure out, how do we deal with this particular small lot? This application, a subdivision application of 70 acres in in a crucial part of town, gives this planning board an opportunity to really set a stage for future development in a comprehensive way. And that's why it's very important the work we're doing now would be done correctly and that we get it right. Because, there's not going to be another 70 acres coming along anytime soon that we can, put in place for proper future development. So with that, I'm not getting any more philosophical than that. It's 9:41. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Someone? Board member?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Is there? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Once again, thank you all. Thank you to LTV. Thank you to staff. Thank you to the applicants for sticking around. And we'll see you all back on December 1st.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Good night.
Oh, and happy Thanksgiving. Yeah.